and welcome. BloombergQuint presents a very special event today for you. MSME Day is 27th June, which is declared by UN. The idea is to promote and encourage MSME across the globe. In India, during the COVID crisis, the spotlight is on MSME sector, that how India will reboot, and this cannot happen without encouraging and supporting MSME sector. Today we are going to have three special presentation for you via virtual event. The beginning will be with MSME Transport and Highways Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, with whom I will be having a conversation on the government initiative, how they are unfolding. The second panel discussion will be on with the MSME sector representatives, that what ground realities are, what challenges they are facing, and how much government support is being effective in their day-to-day business after the reopening. And the third session will focus on how technology is going to create a new foundation for MSME future going forward. Join me in welcoming Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who is Transport, Highways and MSME Minister. And I can tell you, he is your biggest advocate and champion in Delhi. When lockdown started, he started coming up with great practical ideas. Some of them have been already implemented by the government, and some of them he is still pushing very hard for it. Mr. Gadkari is our chief guest today, and now I will request him to give his keynote opening remarks, and then we will do a small session of question and answer with you.
Thank you very much. Namaskar. Sir, MSME is a very most important sector for the country, because in our GDP growth, the 29% of the growth is added from MSME. Our export of Indian export, out of which 48% from MSME. And at the same time, up till now, MSME create 11 crore jobs. Now we have changed the definition of MSME. And it is a historical decision taken by the government. Only I am telling you the importance of this decision. The way in which we have taken from last 14 years, the subject was in waiting list. Now, previously, there was two classification, that is manufacturing sector and service sector. But now we are giving classification is manufacturing and services. It is one sector. In the micro, in the previous, there was investment of 25 lakh. Now the new decision we have taken is coming to 1 crore, 4 times more. The turnover was 10 lakh crore, and now the turnover is coming 5 crore. The investment means investment in plant and machinery or equipment. Now for the small, the investment was 5 crore. Now we have increased it up to 10 crore in the new policy. And the turnover was 2 crore. Now it comes to 50 crore. Then the medium industry. Previously it was investment for 10 crore. Now we have taken it to 50 crore, 5 times more. And the turnover was 5 crore. We have taken it to 50 crore. And all export turnover is excluded from it. So this is a great support from the government to all MSMEs, and which is going to resolve their many problems, and they will get the advantage as an MSME. At the same time, the most important thing is where government is giving 3 lakh crores of especially a package for MSME, and which is going to give a benefit to 45 lakh MSMEs, where the MSME, those who have 25 crore the investment and turnover up to 100 crore, government will give them additional 20% collateral free additional loan over their existing limit, and without any charge. Actually, this is the decision taken by the government. So 45 lakhs MSME will be benefited from this. The most important thing is that MSME, those who are in problem, we need to support them to restructure them. When in March end, when I was in Parliament, I give an answer that up to that date, up to late 20 March something, the 6 lakh MSME was already restructured. And now we have extended that date up to 31st December for this year. So we are now giving subordinate debt fund of 20,000 crore. The idea is, on the present policy, banks are not in position to restructure that MSME, where we will support them by part of the equity, and by which bank will be in position to restructure them on their present policy. So giving this 20,000 crore subordinate debt bank fund is going to restructure the state asset, NPA accounts, and where 2 lakh MSME will be benefited from this. The third is very interesting thing is fund of fund, that is of 50,000 crore. The idea is we will make MSME stock exchange. On the same stock exchange, there will be other part will be MSME stock exchange. On the basis of that, we will fix up the rating of the MSME. Those who have good turnover in banks, those who have actually track record of GST and their income tax return, and at the same time their exports and their profitability, by a simple methodology, we can fix up their rating. On the basis of that, we will select them and allow them to raise the fund from the capital market. But before going to capital market, government will give them a maximum up to 15 crore as equity. The idea is they will go for the capital market by taking our fund. They will get the equity from the capital market, and after 4 years, we will sell that equity. Suppose the 10 rupees share comes to 40 rupees, that benefit will get the government. And after this 50,000 crore fund, my idea is develop it like in NHR. Our total income is 28,000 crore up to now. Well, we can make it up to 40,000 crore up to end of this year. The idea is, after this, within 5 years, we will make income of 1 lakh crore to NHI. So the same line, this fund is going to increase, and definitely again that will be given to MSME, and this circle will help to lakhs of MSMEs to get fund from the capital market. And that is a revolutionary decision taken by the government. We are also strengthening NBFCs. We are giving them equity, giving them working capital, and we are supporting them, and by which 75,000 crores making provision for them. So to do making of strong MSME NBFCs, that is also going to helpful for the MSME industry. The global tender is now up to 200 crore, 100%. The global tender now it is with the Indian company only they can take it. Then MSME's big problem is regarding this payment, particularly with the government, state government undertaking. And I accepted that presently we are now not in position to resolve this problem fully. We have a portal named of Samadhan, where we resolve the problem of something 40,000 crore. But still where we need to make some policy for that. We are in discussion with the industry, and particularly the Prime Minister has taken a decision that whatever the dues of MSMEs with government ministries, public undertaking of central government, within 45 days, they have to issue their payments. But regarding state government also, I'm requesting all the chief minister for taking the decision on the same line. At the same time, majority private sector, I got appointed to discuss majority owners of the private sector. I request them, and majority of them are assuring me that 100% they will give priority to giving payment of MSME. We are now also planning to make some new innovative designs on it. We are working on that, and we will definitely going to resolve their problem. Regarding the package and regarding the problems of MSME, we need more interaction with the MSME. So I am now requesting all MSME that we have got a portal named as Champion, where whatever your problem may be related with the MSME, you put up on that. 100% we will try to resolve that. Up till now, we have resolved more than 50,000 problems. And every day we are receiving the problem. There are problems. I understand. Our MSME is going through a very crucial period. And I am confident that it is the time for the country and time for the government to support our MSME. But now everyone is in problem. Some of the state government, they don't have money to pay the salary for the next month. Even the central government revenue is dropped. The industry, MSME, all are facing crucial problems. The migrant labor problem is equally very, very crucial. For laborers are also facing the problem. At the same time, our banking system is under the stress. So in a situation, everyone is in problem. So where we need definitely a policy of cooperation, coordination, and communication between the stakeholders. I remember Atalji's that song, "Kadam se kadam milakar chalna hoga." That is very important. So we will protect everybody, we will support everybody, and with as a team spirit, we will go ahead. At the same time, the presently because of this coronavirus, I know that we are facing very, very crucial problem. I am aware of all of your problems because I'm constantly interacting with a lot of people, 16 crore people I got offered to interact with them. The most important thing is we need to 100%, we need positivity. Positivity is very important. At the same time, self-confidence. That is very important because our country has already facing a lot of crucial problems. And before 47 and after 47, we face the wars, we face many, many things, many, many very, very crucial things where we face the all problems every time. But now we have proven a track record that we succeed in the mission. So my request to all MSMEs, all stakeholders, that be positive. Positivity is very important. Strong political will is very important. And the third important thing is self-confidence. There is a difference between self-confidence and ego. We should not be egoistic, but self-confidence is very important for we need to fight against this corona, this COVID-19 and economic war where we are going to fight with them. I am confident that in due course of time, we will get the vaccine and the appropriate medicine by which we will win the war against COVID-19. At the same time, to economic war is equally important. I am confident that we are already planned for how we can increase our export, how we can reduce our imports, and at the same time, how we can get more foreign investment in MSME. I have an interaction with the investor from Dubai that by this MSME stock exchange, I requested them that you please invest in MSME, you will get good returns. So now the whole world investor, where we need to attract them for investment in MSME. And that is going to helpful for upgradation of the technology, for increasing our export, for reducing our import. And the liquidity is going to accelerate the wheel of our economy. And that is very important. I feel that from banks, from NBFCs, from foreign investment, from FDI, we need more liquidity in the market, and by which we will definitely going to change the demand and supply ratio. And the most important thing is we need to fight with this corona war. At the same time, we need to fight with this war against the economic war. And I am confident that we will definitely win both the war, and we will have definitely a good progressive picture of our MSME in the future. I am giving my all best wishes to all stakeholders of MSME, not only the owner of the MSME, but the laborers, the engineers, the skilled manpower, and all the stakeholders who are working, working with the cooperation. I am giving my all best wishes for their great future, because today's situation is not good. And I am confident that with their cooperation, we will definitely going to achieve the goal, and we will make India super economic power. Once again, my all best wishes with you. For any problem, don't hesitate. Come to us. Definitely, we will resolve your problem. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आप सब लोगों ने देखा कि गडकरी जी बहुत ही ईमानदारी से, गहराई से, ट्रांसपेरेंसी से सारी बातें खुद बता देते हैं। ये बड़ा मुश्किल है गडकरी जी के साथ कि वो कुछ छुपाने की कोशिश करें, और इसीलिए आपने जो बातें कही हैं सर, वो बिल्कुल बहुत ही मोटिवेटिंग है, बहुत ऑनेस्ट है, और बहुत आपने जो पॉजिटिविटी की बात कही वो तो हमारे एमएसएमईज में है ही, लेकिन आपने जो बातें कही है उसमें से एक दो चीजें थोड़ा और हम विस्तार से समझना चाहेंगे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ये 3 लाख करोड़ क्रेडिट गारंटी बैक्ड स्कीम जो आई है, महीना भर हो गया है, उसका जो डेटा आया, क्योंकि एक बात मुझे एडमिट करनी पड़ेगी कि मेरे पास ऐसी कोई जानकारी नहीं है जिससे ज्यादा आप ऑलरेडी ना जानते हो, लेकिन मेरा सवाल ये है कि जो डेटा सामने सरकार ने दिया है, 3 लाख करोड़ के सामने 80,000 करोड़ का सैंक्शन, 40,000 करोड़ रुपए का डिसबर्सल, करीब क्लेम है कि 19 लाख लोगों को दिया है। यानी टिकट साइज बनता है 2 लाख रुपए से कम। हम जो सुनते हैं ग्राउंड से वो ये सुनते हैं कि न कोई लेना चाह रहा है और जो सरकारी बैंक है खास करके वो देना भी नहीं चाह रहे हैं। डिस्क्रिशन का जो इसमें एलिमेंट आया है उसमें एमएसएमईज को बैंकों से बड़ी दिक्कत आ रही है। आपका फीडबैक क्या है?
देखिए, आप जो कह रहे हैं वो बात के बारे में अभी मेरी सेक्रेटरी से बातचीत हुई वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस के द्वारा, और आपका आपने जो बातें बताई है उसको मैं कॉन्ट्राडिक्ट नहीं कर सकता। और इसलिए मैंने अभी भी उनको कहा है कि भारत सरकार ने प्रधानमंत्री जो पैकेज जाहिर किया है उसमें उन्होंने बड़े साफ तौर से ये कहा है, ये पैकेज देते समय, कि कोलैटरल फ्री लोन और 100 करोड़ जिनका टर्नओवर है, 25% जिनका प्लांट में इन्वेस्टमेंट है, ऐसे लोगों के लिए 20% कोलैटरल फ्री विदाउट एनी फी लोन मिलेगा। इस कोई गारंटी लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। और इसके बारे में जो गाइडलाइंस है उसको ले लेकर अलग अलग बैंकों में जो गाइडलाइन चल रही है उसके बारे में जो डिसबर्समेंट में थोड़ी सी दिक्कत आ रही है, ये बात मेरे ध्यान में आई। और दूसरी बात, एक अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंक है, उनका भी अभी रिजर्व बैंक के कंट्रोल में आई है। गुजरात में, महाराष्ट्र में अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंकों ने भी बड़े प्रमाण पर फाइनेंस किया है। और गुजरात और महाराष्ट्र में अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंक ये बहुत सक्सेस स्टोरी है, और इसलिए उनके बारे में भी ये सब स्कीम उनका एडवांटेज देना, ये दोनों तीनों बातों के बारे में इसमें जो सुझाव आए हैं और जो जो अड़चने आ रही है उसको सुलझाने के बारे में मैंने अर्थ मंत्री जी को भी अपनी बात लिखी है, और मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी के पास भी मैं अपनी बात बता रहा हूँ। और निश्चित रूप से कुछ थोड़ी बहुत दिक्कतें हैं उसमें, क्योंकि ये डिसबर्समेंट और सैंक्शन, ये भी मुझे पता है कि सैंक्शन होता है, डिसबर्समेंट होने में फिर समय लगता है। तो इस समय जो जो तकलीफें इसमें, मैं हमारा यही कोशिश है, क्योंकि वो विषय मेरे हाथ में नहीं है पूरी तरह से, कि डायरेक्ट वर्किंग कैपिटल के 20% वो डायरेक्ट उनको पैसा दे, और वो बढ़ा के दे विदाउट कोलैटरल। उसके लिए कोई गारंटी नहीं, कोई साइन नहीं, केवल उनसे एक बार साइन कर ले और ले ले। जो गारंटी उनने पहले दी उसके ऊपर ही दे। और एमएसएमई में आपको मालूम होगा उगलिया जी, कि बैंक भी पैसा देती है, उसके लिए हम पहले जो पैसा एमएसएमई को दिया जाता है उसका हम इंश्योरेंस करते हैं हमारे ट्रस्ट में, और उसमें हम लोग ट्रस्ट में करके 75% उनके लोन को हमने ऑलरेडी इंश्योर किया है, सिक्योर्ड किया है। 25% बैंक देती है उनके कोलैटरल पर, और उनके जो एसेट्स होते हैं वो मॉर्गेज होते हैं। तो निश्चित रूप से बैंकों ने 20% ही देना चाहिए। यही प्रधानमंत्री जी के पैकेज का भाव था। और इसके बाद वो इफ्स एंड बट्स डालकर कुछ गाइडलाइंस में देकर अलग अलग बैंकों में जो आए, ऐसी तकरारें प्राप्त हुई है। और मैं इसको पूरी बातों को निश्चित रूप से फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर तक और प्रधानमंत्री तक लेके जाकर ये प्रॉब्लम को रिजॉल्व करने की कोशिश करूंगा।
बिल्कुल सर, आपने बहुत ही अहम बात बताई। ये जो चैंपियन पोर्टल पे 50,000 कंप्लेन अगर आई हैं या समस्याओं को लोगों ने बताया है कि क्या दिक्कतें हैं, तो उसमें जो कॉमन प्रॉब्लम क्या सामने आई, अगर ये आप बता पाएंगे तो ये समझ में आएगा कि सरकार कितनी त्वरित गति से प्रोएक्टिवली उसको एड्रेस करने की कोशिश कर रही है। आपसे बात करने के पहले मैंने 2-4 अपने दोस्तों को फोन किया जो एमएसएमई में है, यही समझने के लिए कि मैं गडकरी साहब से क्या पूछूं। तो वहां जो कॉमन प्रॉब्लम मुझे समझ में आ रहा है सर, वो ये है कि बैंक एक तो मॉरिटोरियम वाले को दूसरे तरीके से यूज कर रहे हैं। जो ब्याज जुलाई में चार्ज करना है वो अप्रैल, मई में, जून में वो ले रहे हैं। बैंक गारंटी इन कैश कर रहे हैं। कह रहे हैं वर्चुअल मीटिंग पे बात कर लो, तो क्लाइंट को बोलते हैं कि नहीं, पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक की बात कर रहा हूँ, कि नहीं आके फिजिकली दफ्तर में मिलिए, कोई एक शहर में कोई दूसरे शहर में। इस तरह की अजीबो गरीब शिकायतें आ रही हैं सर।
सर ऐसा इसमें ऐसा है कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में कोई भी प्रोग्राम, कोई भी डिक्लेरेशन में कई प्रॉब्लम तो आती ही है। और ये बात जरूर है कि एक पॉलिसी डिक्लेयर करने के बाद उसकी जो गाइडलाइंस बनती है, रूल्स बनते हैं, उसमें कहीं ना कहीं इस प्रकार की अड़चनें पैदा होती है। पर जो भाव प्रधानमंत्री जी का है, जो भाव हम सबका है, हमारे भारत सरकार का है, वो भाव भी हमने ठीक प्रकार से दिखाया। अभी मैंने उस समय जो डिक्लेरेशन पैकेज किया है उसमें प्रधानमंत्री जी और हमारे वित्त मंत्री जी ने काफी क्लियर करके सब बताया। और अब प्रॉब्लम ये है कि इसके बाद में भी कोई तकलीफें जो आ रही है उसके बारे में मैं तो इतना ही कहूंगा कि जो अभी इसमें हमने कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स भी, अभी ये कोलैटरल फ्री ऑटोमेटिक लोन फॉर एमएसएमई में 100% credit guarantee to bank NBFC on principal and interest. No need of collateral for taking loans. Rupees 3 lakh crore of loans under the scheme. 4-year tenure loan with 12 months moratorium on principal. Loans to be provided till 31st October 2020. Firms with 25 crore outstanding loans or annual turnover of rupees 100 crore are eligible for the scheme. No guarantee fee. And 45 lakh MSME will be benefited. ये सब उस समय उसमें हमने डिक्लेयर किया हुआ है, पर इसमें जो रूल्स और गाइडलाइंस में अगर कुछ अड़चने आती है तो निश्चित रूप से मेरा भी ध्यान इसके तरफ है और निश्चित रूप से वित्त मंत्री जी के साथ बात करके इसमें से हम सोल्यूशन भी निकालेंगे और जरूरत होगी तो प्रधानमंत्री जी के पास भी इन सब बातों के बारे में जरूर चर्चा करूंगा।
बिल्कुल सर। एक दूसरी बात जिसका जिक्र आपने किया कि जो रिसीवेबल्स हैं और सरकार, केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकार, सरकारी उपक्रम, उनसे ये जो अमाउंट ड्यू है, जो पैसा बाकी है, वो मिलने में अभी उनको टाइम लग रहा है, जिसके कारण वर्किंग कैपिटल की एक दूसरी दिक्कत इनको आई हुई है। इसको सॉल्व करने के लिए कुछ और जोर लगाने की जरूरत है, क्योंकि पैसा तो सरकार कहीं ना कहीं से इंतजाम करके दे सकती है और प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लोग भी जो रिसीवेबल्स हैं इनको मिल नहीं रहे। तो हुआ क्या है कि मैंने काम चालू कर दिया, वर्कर मेरे पास पूरा नहीं है, सप्लाई चेन में गैप बना हुआ है, ऊपर से मेरे पास जहां पेमेंट आनी है वो आ नहीं रहा है, मुझसे मांगने के लिए आदमी खड़ा हो गया सामने के लिए। ये एक कॉमन प्रॉब्लम मैं सुन रहा हूं लोगों से, कैसे इससे ओवरकम करें?
देखिए, इसी के लिए हमने ये चैंपियन पोर्टल खोला, क्योंकि हमने जो निर्णय हमारे कैबिनेट स्तर पर प्रधानमंत्री जी ने डिक्लेयर किया, वित्त मंत्री ने डिक्लेयर किया, हमारे मिनिस्ट्री में से डिक्लेयर हुए हैं, उन निर्णयों के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए प्रधानमंत्री जी ने राजनाथ सिंह जी की अध्यक्षता में एक कमेटी भी अपॉइंट की है और इन सब निर्णयों को हम इवेल्यूएट कर रहे हैं, उसका एक प्रकार से परफॉर्मेंस ऑडिट कर। परफॉर्मेंस ऑडिट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। मैं बहुत बार कहता हूँ फाइनेंशियल ऑडिट से परफॉर्मेंस ऑडिट इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो किस प्रकार से इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन हो रहा है, क्या क्या दिक्कतें आ रही है, इसके बारे में हम डिटेल्स में है और मैं आपको इतना ही कहना चाहूंगा कि आपकी जो तकरारें हैं वो हमारे चैंपियन पोर्टल पर भेजते रहिए। हम एक एक को नोट करके स्टडी कर रहे हैं और उसके आधार पर हम फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री के साथ आवश्यकता होगी तो पीएमओ तक हम जाएंगे और उन तकरारों को सुलझाने का पूरा प्रयास हम करेंगे। ये विश्वास मैं सबको देना चाहता हूँ।
जी बिल्कुल। आपने गडकरी साहब इकोनॉमिक वॉर और कोरोना वॉर का जिक्र किया। इकोनॉमिक वॉर के बारे में अगर एक ब्रॉड पिक्चर हम देखें तो वो ये है कि जिस चीज की हमको जरूरत नहीं है, हम खुद बना सकते हैं, उसको हम भारत में बनाए। कॉस्ट के मामले में, क्वालिटी के मामले में कॉम्पिटिटिव हो। लेकिन एक जो बड़ी समस्या है कि बाहर की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यहाँ हम ला सकें, उसमें यह है, उदाहरण के लिए फ्यूएल कॉस्ट, वो 15-20% का पार्ट होता है किसी भी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में। उसकी कीमत बढ़ने से अगर मैं कॉम्पिटिटिव हो भी सकता था तो अब दूसरा देश ज्यादा कॉम्पिटिटिव है। इस प्रकार के हर्डल पर मुझे लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं सरकार का ध्यान कम है, क्योंकि उसको भी रेवेन्यू चाहिए। इसलिए कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस के लिए जो बड़े टूल होते हैं पॉलिसी के, उसमें सरकार कंजूसी कर रही है, हमको कॉम्पिटिटिव बनाना।
देखिए, देश अलग अलग देश में अलग अलग प्रकार की स्थितियां होती है। हमारे यहाँ की लेबर कॉस्ट ये यूरोपियन कंट्री और यूएसए की तुलना में हमारी कॉस्ट काफी अभी चाइना की तुलना में भी हमारी कॉस्ट कम आती है। फिर हमारे यहाँ ट्रेड पॉपुलेशन बड़ी देश में रहना, ये मार्केट जो अवेलेबल बाकी देशों में नहीं वो हमारे देश में है, टर्नओवर ज्यादा होता है। तीसरी बात, अब हमने लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट कम करने के लिए हाईवे बना रहे, दिल्ली मुंबई हाईवे बना रहे। अब मुझे आपको मैं बताता हूँ कि पहले एक ट्रक दिल्ली से मुंबई, अहमदाबाद, सूरत, वडोदरा मार्ग से जाता है, इसको 48 to 50 आवर्स लगते हैं। समटाइम उसको 60 दिन तक 60 घंटे लगते हैं। अभी आज हमने जो नया हाईवे बना है उसमें 80 किलोमीटर के स्पीड से जाकर हमारा जो ट्रक है वो मैक्सिमम 20 आवर्स में 20 से 25 आवर के इसमें चला जाएगा। तो एक ट्रक जो है, जो एक महीने में अगर 5 या 6 ट्रिप मारता होगा, अब वो 8 या 10 ट्रिप मारेगा। तो 10 ट्रिप मारेगा तो फ्यूल बचेगा, कॉस्ट बचेगी। तो धीरे धीरे ये भी बात जरूर है कि कॉस्ट को कम करना। अब फ्यूल की कॉस्ट में जैसे आपने कहा, मैं आपको अभी मैं ट्रांसपोर्ट मंत्री हूँ करके बताता हूँ कि हमारे यहाँ डीजल ट्रक हम यूज करते हैं, और वो भी 10 टन का। अब 10 टन के बजाय डबल एक्सल का 40 टन का ट्रक होगा, और दिल्ली जैसे शहर में मुंबई से माल आता होगा या दिल्ली का मुंबई जाता होगा, तो दोनों शहर के बाहर में हमारा भी रिंग रोड बना है दिल्ली का, लॉजिस्टिक पार्क बन जाएगा, तो 40 टन के अगर माल आएगा तो कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगी। अब नया हाईवे बना रहा, उससे कॉस्ट समय बचेगा तो कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगी, फ्यूल भी बचेगी। तीसरी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज जो है कि अभी हम लोग डीजल पे ट्रक ला रहे हैं। एलएनजी इज द फ्यूल फॉर द फ्यूचर। और मैं आपको बताता हूँ, एक डीजल ट्रक को एलएनजी में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए 8.5 लाख रुपए लग रहा है। 2 साल में ये पैसे वसूल होते हैं, इतना सेविंग है। और इसलिए अब एलएनजी के पंप डाल रहे हैं, उससे पोल्यूशन भी कम होगा, इफिशियंसी भी बढ़ेगी, और मेंटेनेंस कॉस्ट भी कम होगी, और फ्यूल कॉस्ट भी बचेगी। तो धीरे धीरे कुछ डीजल के ट्रक हमने सीएनजी पे कन्वर्ट किए, डीजल के व्हीकल। कुछ जगह पर हम उसको एलएनजी पर ले जाए। अभी इलेक्ट्रिक लाने का भी हमारा प्रयास है। तो धीरे धीरे हमने ये किया है कि अब अभी फ्यूल में हमारा मैक्सिमम डिपेंड जो है वो इंपोर्ट पर है, हम बाहर से लाते हैं। और क्रूड ऑयल अब ये 7 लाख करोड़ का है, और आप इस बात के साक्षी है कि मैं कम से कम 10 साल से आपको जब जब भी इंटरव्यू देता हूँ तो मेरे प्रिय विषय पर इथेनॉल की बात करता हूँ, बायोफ्यूल की बात करता हूँ। अब 20,000 करोड़ की इकोनॉमी 1 लाख करोड़ की बन रही है। अब इथेनॉल पे ऊपर हमारे बाइक तैयार हो गई, इथेनॉल हम कार में डाल सकते हैं, फ्लेक्स इंजन, पेट्रोल या इथेनॉल और कोई भी ले सकते हैं। अब इथेनॉल की बसेस आई है, और हमारा किसान गन्ने से इथेनॉल बनता है, गन्ने के जूस से बनाता है, मोलाइसिस से बनाता है, बीएवी मोलाइसिस से बनाता है। और अभी हमने राइस या फूड ग्रेन और कॉर्न से भी बनाने की अनुमति दी है। और ये 20,000 करोड़ की इकोनॉमी 1 लाख करोड़ की होगी। निश्चित रूप से फ्यूल की कॉस्ट कम होगी और हमारे देश में रोजगार निर्माण होगा। इंपोर्ट सब्स्टिट्यूट, कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव, पोल्यूशन फ्री और इंडिजिनियस। अब धीरे धीरे ये बड़ा ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन चल रहा है। ये 2-3 साल का पीरियड है, इसमें ये ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन काफी होगा और ये फ्यूल कॉस्ट बचेगी। दूसरा हमारा ऐसा है कि वाटर ट्रांसपोर्ट हमने बनाया, जल नदियां बनाई। अब हमारे इंडस्ट्री का भी काम है। अभी देखो गंगा में वाराणसी टू हल्दिया जलमार्ग बन गया, फिर 3 मीटर का ड्राफ्ट है। फिर इलाहाबाद प्रयागराज से वाराणसी 1 मीटर का ड्राफ्ट काम हो गया। फिर हल्दिया से बंगाल की खाड़ी है, और बंगाल के खाड़ी से ब्रह्मपुत्रा का 3 फुट का ड्रेजिंग पूरा काम हो गया। फिर बराक नदी का काम पूरा हो गया। और मैंने उस समय मंत्री था, बांग्लादेश में जाकर मुगली पोर्ट का भी, बांग्लादेश में जो है मुगली का पोर्ट, वहां का भी ड्रेजिंग कर दिया। अब हमारी इंडस्ट्री अगर पानी से अगर अपना माल ले जाएगी तो देखो कितनी बड़ी बचत हो जाएगी। अब 7,500 किलोमीटर समुद्र का किनारा है, इसका उपयोग क्यों नहीं होता? और इसलिए इसको इंकरेज करने में इंडस्ट्री ने भी आगे आना चाहिए। अगर रोड से जाने में 10 रुपए खर्चा है, रेलवे से जाने में 6 रुपए खर्चा है, तो पानी से जाने में 1 रुपया खर्चा है। और अब हम मरीन फ्यूल में मिथेनॉल का यूज करने का सोच रहे हैं, एलएनजी का सोच रहे हैं। और इतना ही नहीं, तो इथेनॉल से मरीन फ्यूल बनाने की बात कर रहे हैं, एविएशन फ्यूल की बात कर रहे हैं, तो सेविंग होगा। अगर हम ये एविएशन फ्यूल, अगर हमारी बायोफ्यूल आ जाएगी आती, तो जेट एयरवेज बंद ही नहीं पड़ता। और उसमें भी से 40,000 करोड़ का उसमें हमारा इंपोर्ट है। तो सरकार इसके ऊपर लगातार प्रयास कर रही है, और जल्दी ही इसके सबके परिणाम आएंगे। और वर्ल्ड में हर देश में कहीं ये अभी पावर रेट है। अब हमारे देश में अगर ये समझो 7 रुपए 8 रुपए यूनिट का रेट आता होगा, तो आप मुझे बताइए यही रेट यूके में कितना है, यही रेट अमेरिका में, यूएसए में कितना है? कहीं कम है, कहीं ज्यादा है। लेबर कॉस्ट कहीं कम है, कहीं ज्यादा है। ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉस्ट कहीं कम है, कहीं ज्यादा है। तो मुझे लगता है हमको ओवरऑल, जब अभी जैसे यूरोप देशों में जाओगे आप, इटली में, फ्रांस में, जर्मनी में, इंग्लैंड में, तो सब इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया नदी के तीरों पर है, और नदी से वाटर ट्रांसपोर्ट के वो पोर्ट में आते हैं। और हमारे देश में नदी के बाजू में इंडस्ट्री डालने का प्रोहिबिशन करके रखा हुआ है। तो धीरे धीरे हमारे पोल्यूशन के साथ कॉम्प्रोमाइज न करते हुए, एयर पोल्यूशन, वाटर पोल्यूशन से बिल्कुल देश को बचाना है। पोल्यूशन इज अ बिग कंसर्न। और उसके साथ वाटर ट्रांसपोर्ट, अलग अलग अल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल का उपयोग करके कॉस्टिंग को कम करने का प्रयास सरकार भी कर रही है। थोड़ा उद्योजक भी इसके लिए इनिशिएटिव ले, तो ये निश्चित रूप से हम इसमें यशस्वी होंगे।
बिल्कुल सर, देखिए आपसे जब भी बात करते हैं सारे स्टेक होल्डर और एंटरप्रेन्योर्स ये बात कहते हैं कि गडकरी जी के पास जब भी बात करो तो बड़े आइडियाज होते हैं, प्रैक्टिकल आइडियाज होते हैं और उनको स्केल किया जा सकता है और वो रियली ग्रोथ की बड़ी स्टोरी में बड़ा रोल प्ले कर सकते हैं। यू आर ऑलवेज फुल विद आइडियाज। सर एक चीज और समझनी है आपसे, इसके पहले कि अब आप अपने दूसरे कार्यक्रमों के लिए जाएं, वो ये है कि जो सप्लाई चेन का डिसरप्शन है और जो अभी हमारा सीमा का जो परिस्थिति वहां जो बन गई है, उसके कारण इंपोर्ट के बारे में जो डिस्करेज करने का प्लान है, ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हम किसी और को इकोनॉमिक कॉस्ट इंपोज करें। बिल्कुल करना चाहिए अगर कोई हमको कोई कॉस्ट दे रहा है तो। लेकिन अभी समस्या ये है कि जिस प्रकार का इंपोर्ट और एक्सपोर्ट का हमारा हाल है, उसमें ये कॉस्ट हम पर इंपोज हो रहा है। पोर्ट पे माल अटके हुए हैं, जो चीजें जरूरी हैं वो आ नहीं रही हैं, उसके बिना हमारे यहाँ का बिजनेस ठप होगा और हम जो बना के बेचते हैं डोमेस्टिक मार्केट और एक्सपोर्ट मार्केट के लिए भी, उसमें भी भारी डिस्रप्शन हो गया है। मेरा मानना है कि आत्मनिर्भरता या लोकल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को बढ़ावा देने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि जो ग्लोबल ट्रेड इतना जोर से जुड़ा हुआ है उसको इस तरह से झटका दिया जाए।
देखिए, पहली बात तो ऐसे है कि विदेशों से जो इंपोर्ट होता है उसको कम करना चाहिए और कम करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। अब आज ही मैंने एक पत्र निर्मला जी को और पीयूष जी को लिखा है कि जो इंडियन उद्यमशील जो लोग हैं, उद्योगपति है, उन्होंने चाइना से माल इंपोर्ट किया है और एलसी से पैसा तो दे दिया। अब वो माल अभी आया पोर्ट पर, अब उसको तकलीफ होगी तो नुकसान चाइना का नहीं होगा, उनकी इंडस्ट्री का नहीं, अपने इंडस्ट्री का होगा।
एग्जैक्टली।
तो हाँ, तो अभी आप एक बात करो कि भाई चाइना से अगर इंपोर्ट नहीं होना चाहिए तो ड्यूटी बढ़ाओ, जैसे अगरबत्ती पर हमने बढ़ाई, उन चीजों पर बढ़ाओ। पर जो माल अभी इंडियन लोगों ने एलसी पर लाया है तो उसको रोकना है, नहीं इंडिया के लोगों को तकलीफ देने वाली बात होगी, तो उसमें थोड़ा सुधार करना पड़ेगा। तो हमारे थोड़ा से कंस्टेंट होते हैं, तो मुझे लगता है कि निश्चित रूप से इसको हम रिजॉल्व करेंगे। पर एक बात मैं आपको बताता हूँ, आपको मालूम है पीपीई किट का, पहले हमारे देश में अभी 2-2.5 महीने पहले चाइना से स्पेशल हवाई जहाज से पीपीई किट आई थी। आज हमारे यहाँ हम लोग 5 लाख पीपीई किट रोज बना रहे हैं। नागपुर में हमारे एमएसएमई के छोटे छोटे लोग बना रहे हैं, सब देश में बना रहे हैं। और अभी नागपुर में एक पीपीई किट का क्लस्टर है, उसका नाम है ऑरेंज टेक्सटाइल क्लस्टर। आप इस पर फिल्म बनाओ जरूर, एक फिल्म भी मैं बनाइए, आपको भेजूंगा, आप कौस्तुभ से मांग लीजिए। वो क्लस्टर में ये जो पीटर इंग्लैंड, ये जो शर्ट बनता है, ये हमारे नागपुर में बनता है। तो उन्होंने अभी पीपी किट बनाई और उनकी पीपी किट अभी एक्सपोर्ट होने लगी। अभी हम लोग 5 लाख पीपी किट हर रोज बना रहे हैं। अब भारत सरकार अनुमति भी दे रही है और हमारी पीपी किट अब हम लोग अब पूरे देश में हम लोग भेज रहे हैं। इसका चित्र भी अब इसके साथ आ रहा है, ये पूरा नागपुर के यूनिट का। और ये पीपी किट अभी एक समय हम लोग इंपोर्ट पे डिपेंड रहते थे, अब पीपी किट हमारा देश भेज रहा है। अब कनाडा में, यूएसए में, पूरे वर्ल्ड में हमारी पीपी किट जाने की मौका आया, हमारा सैनिटाइजर जा रहा है अरब कंट्रीज में। तो ये बात गलत है, हमारे लोग भी समझते हैं और आज उसमें हमारी अच्छी पकड़ भी हो गई है और हम अब बड़े प्रमाण पर एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। तो मैं ये मानता हूँ कि इंडियन इंडस्ट्री को, एमएसएमई को अगर अवसर मिलता है तो इंपोर्ट को कम करना चाहिए, एक्सपोर्ट को बढ़ाना चाहिए।
बिल्कुल।
और इसमें और एक बात इंपॉर्टेंट है कि मैं एक स्टैटिस्टिक तैयार कर रहा हूँ, 2 किताबें प्रकाशित कर रहा हूँ कि देश का एक्सपोर्ट कितना है 3 साल का और इंपोर्ट कितना है। और जो इंपोर्ट हो रहा है कुछ जगह पर इंडियन इंडस्ट्री को सपोर्ट करने के लिए हमको ड्यूटी बढ़ानी पड़ेगी उस आइटम पर, ताकि इंडिया के लोग वायबल बने। तो निश्चित रूप से हम इसका सीरियसली ध्यान पीयूष जी और निर्मला जी दोनों कर रही है और इसके कारण निश्चित रूप से हमारे देश में इंपोर्ट को हम डिस्करेज करेंगे, एक्सपोर्ट को इनकरेज करेंगे और निश्चित रूप से एक्सपोर्ट को बढ़ाते जाकर हमारी इकोनॉमी को स्ट्रांग बनाएंगे। यही हमारी भूमिका है और इससे एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ने से नए रोजगार निर्माण होंगे, हमारे जीडीपी में ग्रोथ में एडिशन होगा और निश्चित रूप में देश का उसका फायदा होगा।
बिल्कुल सर, आपने बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात बताई है कि जो जरूरी चीजें हैं उनके इंपोर्ट को डिसरप्ट नहीं करना चाहिए। तो थोड़ा एक बार मैं फिर इस पर प्रेस करूंगा 30 सेकंड के लिए कि आप ये कह रहे हैं कि रेटोरिक और पॉलिटिकल स्टेटमेंट अपनी जगह है, लेकिन शॉर्ट टर्म में हमको अपना ही नुकसान नहीं करना चाहिए रिटोरिक के कारण। इसलिए जो जरूरी प्रायोरिटी इंपोर्ट है उनको डिसरप्ट मत करो, वो एक अलग मुद्दा है चाइना के साथ।
देखिए, पहली बात तो ऐसी है कि पहली बात तो हम लोग इंपोर्ट को कम करें, चाहे वो चाइना के साथ हो और किसी देश के साथ। और हमारी इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट पॉलिसी में हमारे देश के लोगों को प्रोत्साहित कैसे करें, ये हमें सोचना चाहिए। दूसरी बात, आज की जो विशेष स्थिति है, वो आने के पहले ही हमारे देश के लोगों ने कुछ अपनी एलसी देकर चाइना से अगर कुछ माल लिया तो वो आने के लिए 15, 20, 25 दिन लगते हैं। तो ये तो एक एक महीना पहले बुक किया हुआ माल था, अब वो इंडियन पोर्ट पर आ रहा है, वो चाइनीज गुड है। तो आज अगर उसको उसमें देने में अगर उनको मिलने में अड़चन हो जाएगी, क्योंकि हम कहेंगे ये चाइना गुड है, इसको वापस दे दो, तो ये नुकसान चाइना का या चाइना के उद्योगों का नहीं होगा। ये जो माल जो है वो हमारे लोगों ने जो एलसी देकर लाया, उन्हें पैसा तो दे दिया है, तो नुकसान हमारे लोगों का होगा। तो इसके बाद में अगर हम कोई इंपोर्ट करने वाले, उनके ऊपर रिस्ट्रिक्शन डाल सकते हैं, उनके ऊपर हम लोग
ड्यूटी बढ़ा दें,
ड्यूटी बढ़ा सकते हैं। पर अभी जो
दूसरे
माल आ
देशों
रहा
से
है
ले आए।
उसके बारे में अगर हम कोई कड़ाई अपनाएंगे तो नुकसान भारतीय उद्योगों का होगा। ये बात को लेते हुए कुछ कंफ्यूजन अगर है तो मैंने आज पीयूष जी को और निर्मला जी को इसके बारे में आज ही पत्र लिखा है कि इसको वेरीफाई करके उचित निर्णय करें।
नहीं, बिल्कुल, ब्लूमबर्ग क्विंट पर आपने आज की इस एमएसएमई डे की चर्चा में एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज ब्रेक हमको दिया है कि आपने चिट्ठी लिखी है वित्त मंत्री को और वाणिज्य मंत्री को। ये बड़ा प्रैक्टिकल अप्रोच है आपका और ये बिल्कुल सही अप्रोच है। गडकरी जी, हमेशा की तरह से आपने हमारे लिए वक्त निकाला, आपका बहुत शुक्रिया। और हम पक्के तौर पर जानते हैं कि इस चर्चा से एमएसएमई के जो हमारे प्लेयर हैं, जो बहुत चुनौती का वक्त अपने सामने फेस कर रहे हैं, उनमें उनको क्लैरिटी भी मिलेगी और आपसे हौसला भी मिलेगा कि सरकार दरअसल बहुत ही प्रोएक्टिव अप्रोच से रिस्पॉन्सिव है और उनकी समस्याओं को एड्रेस करने के लिए आंख और कान खुले रख करके सुनने के लिए तैयार है, जो आप हमेशा आमंत्रित करते रहते हैं। गडकरी साहब, आपको फिर से एक बार पहुंचे।
थैंक यू, नमस्कार।
ब्लूमबर्ग क्विंट के इस स्पेशल इवेंट में हम आगे की तरफ बढ़ते हैं। डोंट गो अवे, वी हैव नेक्स्ट सेशन अबाउट MSME sectors where MSME stakeholders, the entrepreneurs, the players themselves are participating and telling what are the ground realities. Please be on stand. Hello and welcome again. You just heard Mr. Gadkari, who gave a very motivating, positive and transparent thoughts, and he admitted some of the problems that MSME sector is facing. I again welcome a very esteemed panel of my guests in the next session, where we are going to talk about how to build a strong financial foundation for the new normal, post-COVID normal. The guests who are joining me are Mr. Subhash Joinwal, who is Chief General Manager with State Bank of India, looks after MSME and inclusion. Mr. Animesh Saxena represents FISME, Federation of Indian Small and Medium Enterprises. He has been most vocal and vociferous and experienced voice as far as MSME issues are concerned. Nitin Kapoor joins us, and Miss Raj Lakshmi Rao, who has been heading Indian American Chamber of Commerce since last some years, and she is first woman president to hold this position. सभी दर्शकों का आप बहुत स्वागत है। आप लोगों ने गडकरी जी से ये चर्चा सुनी। अब हम अपनी चर्चा शुरू करते हैं। सबसे पहले चलते हैं अनिमेश जी के पास। अनिमेश जी, आपसे एक बस क्विक ओवरव्यू चाहिए कि जब से ये अनलॉक हुआ और अनलॉक 1 के बाद खुलना शुरू हुआ, एमएसएमई सेक्टर और इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी चालू हुई, तो ग्राउंड में कितना खुला है और कितना अभी भी बंद है?
संजय जी, अगर अभी हम लोग देखें तो हम अभी 30-35% ही ऑपरेशनल हो पाए हैं और उसके पीछे चैलेंजेस कई रहे कि एक तो सप्लाई चेन पूरी ओपन नहीं हुई, अभी डिमांड जनरेट नहीं हो रही है, और एक लेबर वर्कर क्राइसिस भी एक बहुत बड़ा रीजन है कि जो मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटीज से वर्कर्स माइग्रेट होकर चले गए, उनकी अवेलेबिलिटी बहुत कम है। तो ओवरऑल अगर हम लोग देखते हैं तो 1/3 अभी ओपन हुई है इंडस्ट्रीज।
ओके, किस तरह के इश्यूज अभी जो सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट, अगर क्विक लिस्टिंग आपसे चाहें कि जहां इश्यूज आ रहे हैं जिसको प्रायोरिटी पर एड्रेस करना चाहिए, क्योंकि सरकार ने बहुत सारे अनाउंसमेंट्स किए हैं, उसके कंपैरिजन में अगर हम देखें तो कौन सा इशू अभी सबसे ज्यादा प्रेसिंग है?
सबसे ज्यादा प्रेसिंग है जनरेशन ऑफ डिमांड। जब तक कि ये डिमांड जनरेट नहीं होगी तब तक पूरे सप्लाई चेन में इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी पूरी तौर पे शुरू नहीं हो पाएंगी। और दूसरी चीज होगी कि जो अभी भी ट्रैवल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस और हर एक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट अपने नए नए रूल्स रेगुलेशंस पास करते जा रहे हैं, वो एक बहुत बड़ा कंफ्यूजन क्रिएट कर रहा है कि जो वर्कर्स चले गए उनको अगर वापस आना है तो वो क्वारंटाइन के रूल्स हैं डिफरेंट, जहां के ट्रेन अवेलेबिलिटी है, उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट को एक सेंट्रल पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए सारे स्टेट्स के साथ कि अगर वर्कर मूवमेंट होना है तो वो स्मूथ तरीके से कैसे हो सके और वर्कर्स वापस आके जहां जहां रिक्वायरमेंट है वो वर्कर वापस कैसे आ सके।
बिल्कुल। अब चलते हैं राज्य लक्ष्मी जी के पास। व्हाट आर यू हियरिंग फ्रॉम योर एमएसएमई फ्रेंड्स?
First, let me wish everybody International MSME Day. I congratulate our Honorable Minister for having started this whole debate before this debate, announcing a lot of packages. Till that time, we had a lot of issues to ask, but after hearing what he has spoken today, and also that gazetted information which we got yesterday, which have clarified many things that we were actually going to ask and keep talking about. I mean, there's still issues as supply chain has to come into place and migration labor has to come back, and there will be some time gap by the time it reaches to everybody else. Till today, I had a lot of issues to talk about. But after yesterday and this morning, listening to Mr. Gadkari, they have looked at many, many solutions. For the first time, I find that they have gone into complete solution-based policies. And they're also looking at the whole thing as how to resolve issues, whatever is coming up. They're not closing the doors on anybody. They've opened the champion portal, and that itself shows that they're open to all these grievances and to improve it. Today I'm very hopeful, and I think it's a historical day to say on this great day of MSME International Day, suddenly India has woken up to the highest heights. I don't think anybody can do better than this. They're getting Atma portal number to everybody, and everybody can register just with their Aadhaar card. Mm-hmm. And with that, everything is opened up. If you have not paid income tax, GST, doesn't matter, but they come into the system. Once all these people come into the system, it is so easy to resolve problems. This is something for the first time in the world, such a thing has happened. Imagine MSMEs having their own number and to resolve issues and to receive money and to file grievances. It may just take a little time to smoothen some things, but it's just the right way to go about. I mean, I'm so happy to see all this by this afternoon. Like since yesterday I'd been debating, then I saw the new gazetted thing that has come from MSME department. And after Mr. Gadkari spoke, I mean, I think we just have to start talking about how to resolve these things and take it forward.
Exactly, how to resolve these things. Nitin Kapoor is a young entrepreneur and he is in the textile space. I think he is actually a old startup, but we can still call him startup or no, he will clarify. And he works out of Noida. What are the issues you are facing?
Thank you, Sanjay, for having me here. Firstly, I'll tell you that I'm very happy that all of a sudden there is all the eyes are there on MSME, and we have all the attention of almost all the important government representative and officials wanted to solve MSME problems. So ये एक बहुत अच्छी बात है. जो problems हैं वो particularly in domains में हैं wherein we're facing financial issues, wherein the working capital is not there. As soon as we've opened up, या तो labor नहीं है या फिर वो labor काम करना नहीं चाहती है. So that is one of the issues which we're facing. The other is the working capital which is not there. The supply chain is not working completely. Since when you're working in this particular domain, आप चाहते हो कि आपका ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ठीक से काम करे, आपके वेंडर्स ठीक से काम करें. They're still facing issues. कहीं उनके पास लेबर नहीं है, हमारे पास नहीं है. जो भी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कंपनीज हैं, दे आर नॉट वर्किंग फुल्ली. जितने अभी वी आर एन एक्सपोर्ट कंपनी, हम सारे इंटरनेशनल पार्सल्स भेजते हैं यहाँ से. नाउ द बेसिक प्रॉब्लम व्हाट वी फेसिंग इज we have a tie-up with foreign post. Now the foreign post has not opened up till yet, so they're not able to send our parcels to international customers there. And many of the private players also haven't started working till yet. So that is also one of the issues. So you can call it a supply chain problem which is there when we have opened up. So even if we try and do 30 to 40% of the business in these markets, it's really getting troublesome by not having the kind of support what we're looking for.
बिल्कुल. आइए अब आप लोगों के साथ हम लोग जोड़ते हैं एसबीआई के जॉनवाल साहब को, जो उनका काम है आप लोगों को लोन देना. और देखिए, एक बात एसबीआई के बारे में हमको माननी चाहिए, पब्लिक और प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स की हम बात करते हैं, जिसमें सबसे ज्यादा ट्रस्ट या ईज ऑफ ट्रांजैक्टिंग विद सम बैंक, उसमें एसबीआई बहुत ही टॉप मोस्ट बैंक है. इसलिए जो समस्याएं हैं वो सामने, अभी गडकरी जी ने खुद बताया कि उनके चैंपियन पोर्टल पे 50,000 कंप्लेंट्स, फीडबैक, इश्यूज आए हैं. नंबर बहुत बड़ा है. तो जो अभी हेडलाइन बनी थी वो बनी थी कि 3 लाख करोड़ का ये जो पैकेज आया है क्रेडिट गारंटी बैक्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट, वो किस तरीके से पैन आउट हो रहा है. तो इसके पहले की इस चर्चा में आप लोगों की हम और राय ले, सबसे पहले हम लोग चलते हैं जॉनवाल साहब के पास ये समझने के लिए कि किस तरह के इश्यूज वो फेस कर रहे हैं, उनके सामने आ रहे हैं और कैसे वो एड्रेस कर रहे हैं. जॉनवाल साहब.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay ji, for giving this opportunity, and I also convey my sincere thanks on behalf of SBI to Bloomberg for holding this webinar and inviting that honorable minister for that this interaction. So first of all, today being a MSME International Day, I congratulate and wishing that all the MSME family for today's that MSME International Day. And just to share with you, since today, fourth Saturday being a holiday, so we have organized that or celebrated this MSME Day yesterday evening on the eve of MSME Day. So yesterday we have organized approximate 500 e-town hall meetings across India with the MSME, our customers. So in which approximate 15,000 customers were connected, and our top management were also addressed some of the customers, whatever their queries were there. So it's basically a continuous process which we are since the starting of that some of the packages which government has announced, because we feel sometimes that the ground realities, sometimes we announce that the schemes, and of course from bank side a lot of schemes are there, but the message, okay, and what is the benefits are available in those schemes are not down the line people just reach to them. So we are trying to educate or make them the aware of our customers, what are the schemes are available and what are the benefits are available. So yesterday we got a very good appreciations and that response from our customers. So because they had a lot of queries, which we just addressed them, and they had some suggestions also, which are because some of the customers, which they said they are not being fitted in that the particular scheme. So they had suggested some of the feedbacks. So definitely we are taking care of those suggestions and taking forward, so that we should be in a position to cover maximum people under the schemes which they are or the benefit they require.
बिल्कुल, आपसे और सवाल जवाब होंगे और मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा नितिन जैसे लोगों से भी कि वो भी आपसे सीधे कुछ पूछना चाहें तो जरूर पूछें. अनिमेश जी के पास चलते हैं फिर से. अनिमेश जी, एक डेटा मैंने अभी देखा है 2-3 दिन पहले, सरकार का डेटा है, 3 लाख करोड़ का ये जो पैकेज अनाउंस हुआ कि लिक्विडिटी बहुत अवेलेबल करा दी. 6 हफ्ता हो गया है इस स्कीम को, और उसमें जो मैंने पढ़ा है सरकारी आंकड़ा वो ये है कि 80,000 करोड़ रुपए का सैंक्शन, 40,000 करोड़ रुपए का डिसबर्समेंट. ये बात मैंने अभी गडकरी जी से भी पूछी. 19 लाख लोग उसके बेनिफिशियरीज हैं. इसका मतलब हुआ 2 लाख रुपए की टिकट साइज अगर एवरेज निकालें तो 6 हफ्तों के बाद अगर 40,000 करोड़ रुपए का डिसबर्समेंट है तो इसको कैसे इंटरप्रेट किया जाए?
इसको 2 तरीके से इंटरप्रेट किया जाएगा कि एक तो इसका सक्सेस रेट इतना बढ़िया क्यों नहीं रहा, इसके पीछे रीजंस क्या है जी. एक तो ये एक लोन है, ग्रांट नहीं है, और इस समय इंडस्ट्री जो इतनी बैड शेप में है, जब डिमांड्स नहीं है इंडस्ट्री के पास, फुली ऑपरेशनल नहीं हो रही है, तो अगर वो उसको रियली अगर वर्किंग कैपिटल की नीड है तब तो वो लोन लेगा, नहीं तो वो इसको अवेल नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि ये ऐसे मैंने कहा लोन है तो इसकी कॉस्ट है, तो इस वजह से इसके टेकर्स बहुत कम हैं। दूसरे इसमें जो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस थी कि ये सिर्फ एग्जिस्टिंग बोरोवर्स के लिए है, और वो भी जो उनका 29 फरवरी को जितनी आउटस्टैंडिंग थी उसका 20%। गवर्नमेंट को ये एक तो कंडीशन हटा देनी चाहिए कि अगर मेरे पास 29 फरवरी को सपोज मेरी टोटल लोन आउटस्टैंडिंग 10 लाख रुपीस थी, तो मुझे सिर्फ 2 लाख रुपए मिलेंगे। तो मैं 2 लाख रुपए के लिए इतना पेपर वर्क करके बैंक के पास जाऊं और 2 लाख रुपए का लोन क्यों लूं? तो ये कंडीशन एक तो हटनी चाहिए। और बहुत सी जो अगर गवर्नमेंट आप एमएसएमई के स्ट्रक्चर को देखें, 97% ऑफ एमएसएमईज कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में नहीं है, वो है प्राइवेट लिमिटेड पार्टनरशिप है या प्रोप्राइटरशिप कंपनीज। बहुत से लोगों के पास बैंक की फैसिलिटीज है भी नहीं उनमें से। अगर आप देखें स्पेशली माइक्रो और टाइनी यूनिट्स जो होती हैं, उनके पास ऑर्गेनाइज वे में बैंक से फाइनेंस वो ले ही नहीं पाते, क्योंकि बैंक के जो अपने रूल्स और रेगुलेशंस हैं उनको फाइनेंस करने के लिए वो उसको मीट नहीं कर पाते। तो वो जाते हैं प्राइवेट फाइनेंसियर्स के पास या एनबीएफसीज के पास, कि जिनके नॉर्म्स रिलैक्स्ड होते हैं। तो उनको इस सेक्टर में कैसे फॉर्मल सेक्टर में जोड़ा जा सके, तो गवर्नमेंट को थोड़ा सा उसके ऊपर कुछ काम करना चाहिए था कि जो भी उद्योग आधार नंबर से रजिस्टर्ड एमएसएमईज हैं और वो किसी एनबीएफसी से किसी उससे फाइनेंस लेती थी, उनको आप कोलेटरल फ्री चीपर लोन कैसे दे सकते हैं। क्योंकि कुछ यूनिटें जिनका टोटल टर्नओवर साल का 10 लाख 20 लाख 30 लाख रुपए है, 50 लाख रुपए है, वो यूनिट्स जो हम लोगों के पास डेटा है वो इस क्राइसिस में शायद सरवाइव नहीं कर और वो वाइंड अप करते, और वो अपने साथ 5 या 10 वर्कर्स का जो भी जॉब दे पाती थी उन सबको लेके वो बैठ जाएंगे। ये एक बहुत बड़ा वनरेबल सेक्टर है कि जिसको उसको फॉर्मलाइज करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट को ट्वीक करना चाहिए। इस अपने नॉर्म्स में जो 3 लाख करोड़ का फंड गवर्नमेंट ने रखा है उसको ट्वीक करना चाहिए।
बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात बता रहे हैं आप। ये बताएं, जो हम लोग कई बार ये कह रहे हैं कि बहुत सारी यूनिट्स बंद हो जाएंगी, ये एक थ्योरेटिकल बात है, एप्रीहेंशन है, या अब चूंकि काफी महीने काफी हफ्ते गुजर चुके हैं, लॉकडाउन अनलॉकडाउन पैकेज रिलीफ और उसका जो भी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो पा रहा है, क्या यूनिट्स दरअसल अभी भी कई हैं ऐसी जो नहीं खुली हैं या खुली हैं और बहुत मुश्किल में और एक्चुअली बंद हो जाएंगी? ये बंद होने की बात हुआ है या सच्चाई है?
सच्चाई है, ये बंद होनी शुरू हो चुकी है। स्पेशली मैं आपको बताऊं, हॉस्पिटैलिटी सेक्टर में जो स्मॉल यूनिट थी, जैसे जो ईटरीज थी छोटी छोटी, वो वाइंड अप करके वो रेंटल जहां पर थे वो खाली करके चले गए वो लोग। अब वो दोबारा आएंगे फिर रीस्टार्ट करेंगे कि नहीं करेंगे, कितने परसेंटेज लोग कर पाएंगे, ये एक क्वेश्चन मार्क है। दूसरे जैसे जो लोग सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टिंग बिजनेस में थे, जैसे किसी के लिए वो छोटा मोटा जॉब वर्क करते थे, उन्होंने अपनी, क्योंकि उनके पास भी देखिए एक लायबिलिटी थी कि अगर जिस जगह पे कर रहे थे उसका रेंटल था, बिजली के फिक्स एक्सपेंसेस थे, और अगर उनके पास कुछ एम्प्लॉइज थे तो उनके प्रति उनका लीगल और मॉरल ऑब्लिगेशन था कि उनको कुछ वो पैसे देते रहे सरवाइव करने के लिए। तो उन सबसे बचने के लिए उन लोगों ने अपने सेटअप को वाइंड अप कर दिया, और वो अपने नेटिव प्लेस, अगर वो एनसीआर या दिल्ली या मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटीज में नहीं थे तो वो अपने अपने होम टाउन चले गए कि अब जब सिचुएशन इंप्रूव होगी, मार्केट फिर से इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी रिवाइव होगी और डिमांड जनरेट होगी, तब वो लोग वापस आके फिर से रीस्टार्ट करने की कोशिश करेंगे। ये सिनेरियो बिल्कुल एक्चुअल है, ग्राउंड लेवल की रिपोर्ट है
जी। एक जो डेटा हम लोग पढ़ते रहते हैं उसको थोड़ा पर्सपेक्टिव के लिए मैं कुछ आपके सामने रखता हूं, आप लोग बताइए उस पर क्या मैं सही सोच रहा हूं या गलत। कहते हैं कि 6 करोड़ प्लस एमएसएमईज हैं, उनमें ज्यादातर तो माइक्रो हैं जो कि मुश्किल से 1 या 2 या 3 एम्प्लॉइज रखते होंगे। 3-3.5 लाख हैं जिनको आप स्मॉल कहते हैं, जिसको मीडियम कहते हैं वो है 5000 यूनिट। भारत जैसे बड़े देश में 5000 यूनिट और उसके बाद 3.25 लाख स्मॉल इंटरप्राइजेस जिनका एक छोटा सा साइज ठीक ठाक है, लेकिन बाकी हैं बिल्कुल 1 आदमी वाले, 2 आदमी वाले, सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड वाले, छोटे वाले। हम जब बात करते हैं तो ऐसा लगता है कि हम स्मॉल और मीडियम की बात कर रहे हैं, माइक्रो जोड़ जरूर दिया है, लेकिन माइक्रो को देख कौन रहा है? अनिमेश जी।
बिल्कुल सही चीज आपने कही कि शायद उनको कोई देखने वाला नहीं है। वो एक ऐसा इकोसिस्टम है जिसमें वो अपने आप ही सरवाइव कर रहे हैं और उनको सरकार की किसी स्कीम से कोई लेना देना नहीं है। वो अपने एफर्ट्स पे जिसके साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, क्योंकि वो जितनी यूनिट्स हैं वो किसी न किसी अपने से बड़ी यूनिट के साथ जुड़े हुए लोग हैं, वो डायरेक्ट कंज्यूमर तक काम नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। तो वो लोग अपने एफर्ट से, अपनी कैपिटल से या कुछ प्राइवेट बारोवर से जो बारो करके काम करते हैं और अपने को सर्वाइवल करते हैं, वो एक तरह से पहले कहीं वो जॉब करते थे और अब वो एंटरप्रेन्योर बन गए हैं। वो इस तरह की यूनिट्स हैं और उनके लिए उनका कोई फॉर्मल रिप्रेजेंटेशन भी बहुत मुश्किल है, वो हो नहीं पा रहा है।
बिल्कुल। नितिन के पास चलते हैं। नितिन, आपने सुना कि एसबीआई की तरफ से सुभाष जी ने बताया कि वो लोग क्या क्या कदम उठा रहे हैं। तो अगर हम लोग पुराने एंटरप्रेन्योर्स वर्सेस नए एंटरप्रेन्योर्स और उनकी लोन एलिजिबिलिटी वगैरह की बात करें तो आपका क्या फीडबैक है? आप उनसे कुछ पूछना चाहें?
तो मेरा सबसे पहला पॉइंट ये है कि जो 3 लाख करोड़ का गवर्नमेंट ने पैकेज दिया है, so that is not a package which has been credited into the accounts of all the MSME. ये अंडरराइट करा है गवर्नमेंट ने and they have advised financial institutions and the banks कि वो जाके MSMEs को लोन दें and we are underwriting it कि if at all they defaulted at any point of time, so we will pay that money. So that is the one thing. But the banks are definitely calling MSME जो eligible हैं उनको phone कर रहे हैं और they're just taking their consent whether you would like to take a loan for this or not. हम 0% पे इसको दे रहे हैं. There is no charges at all and there is 9.25% or 8%. Every bank has different structure. We will offer you this particular loan. Obviously the loan amount is so minuscule that it is giving everybody a question mark कि मेरे को ये loan लेना है कि नहीं लेना है या मैं करूँगा क्या इसका लेके. Or if at all there are people who are saying कि ठीक है हम इसको ले लेते हैं and let's move forward with it. But these are only those people who are comfortable. Those who are uncomfortable, जिनको पता है कि इस लोन अमाउंट से कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, so they're not able to move forward with this. So जो माइक्रो की हम बात कर रहे हैं, they would never be able to survive with this kind of capital. Second चीज जो प्रॉब्लम है हमारे पूरे जो particular system में, that is hand holding. MSME would need a lot of hand holding in terms of financial support. The labor laws issues जो बहुत ज्यादा हैं. आज एक कोई हम कंपनी खोलता है बंदा, कोई भी आदमी यहाँ पे कंपनी खोलता है, उसके पास इतने लेबर लॉज हैं टू फॉलो. एंड इफ यू कम टू नोएडा, इफ एट ऑल somebody wants to get into textile, वो 10 लोग भी रख लेगा अगर, then he needs a PF number, then he needs an ESI number, then he needs factory licenses. इतने सारे लेबर लॉज हैं for an MSME also and for a company who's probably big enough. तो वो सारे के सारे उसके लिए भी लागू होते हैं. So वो challenging times हैं. And the third is the entrepreneurial skills, जिसके लिए कोई ट्रेनिंग किसी को नहीं दी जाती, यहाँ सिखाया नहीं जाता है that how would you be like to be an entrepreneur. So there is no support from the government which is coming in. So I'll just like to give you a small example. China में they are exporting products, export driven economy, and they produce at such a levels कि वो पूरे वर्ल्ड में उसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं. आज अगर हम अपनी ड्यूटी बढ़ा भी देते हैं, इंपोर्ट की ड्यूटी, जितना भी प्रोडक्ट हमारे पास यहाँ पे आ रहा है, and we say that we try and produce that product into India, क्या हमारे पास उसका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है? That is no. हमारे पास उसके लिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ही नहीं है कि हम वो प्रोडक्ट क्रिएट कर पाएं, irrespective of the fact कि हम उसकी ड्यूटी बढ़ाएंगे कि नहीं बढ़ाएंगे. So I think the infrastructure has to be built up. The people have to be motivated. Entrepreneur skills सबको देने पड़ेंगे, educate करना पड़ेगा, inform करना पड़ेगा, so that they come to know that we are able to do all these things and the government is there to support us.
बिल्कुल. सुभाष जी, आप इनमें से कुछ पॉइंट अगर पिक करना चाहें जो नितिन ने रखे, उसके अलावा हमारे पास कुछ सवाल भी आ रहे हैं, जैसे कि मोटी फिलिप हमसे पूछ रहे हैं कि फ्रेश लोन्स के बारे में क्या होता है, जो बिल्कुल नया बोरोवर अगर है तो उसके साथ क्या स्थिति है. और दूसरी बात, हमने सुना है कि छोटे जो बोरोवर्स हैं उनको ये जो पैन कार्ड मैंडेटरी कर दिया है उसकी भी बड़ी दिक्कत आ रही है. तो अगर आप इसमें से कुछ पॉइंट्स पिकअप करके बोलना चाहें सुभाष जी.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I'll respond to Nitin ji, those who escalated 1 or 2 points. Like this is a scheme, this is out of 3 lakhs this crores for the MSME. So this is a guaranteed that scheme, which is 100% guaranteed by the NCG. Okay. So you rightly said this is basically 20% of the outstanding as on 29th of February. The customers are eligible to avail. But I would like to say here that the process of this application is very, very simple, because we are not going for any appraisal, we are not going for any processing, just it's a sort of pre-approved. Whatever outstanding was there, 20%, then we are just giving them as a WCTL, working capital term loan, which is repayable in 48 months, and first 12 months is a moratorium for that principal outset. And now he said that the 20% is a very minimal amount, okay, which may not be sufficient for that. So just like to share that, in addition to this 20%, State Bank has already announced, even before announcing this GECL, this is a guaranteed schemes, that our own scheme, which we are calling it a COVID emergency credit line, in which also we offer that the 10% of that the working capital fund based limits up to the customers who are availing that the limit up to 2,000 crores, means ki up to 200 crores we were able to give up to, okay, from minimum amount. So again, this is 10% in addition to that. So now it comes to that the 30% over and above that the schemes is, that the facilities are available or the working capital is available to it. Now the next third question is, even then this 30% is not sufficient, if the customer is feeling that 30% is not sufficient, so we have come out with another scheme. This is we calling it a liberalized working capital assessment limit, under which that customers can approach us with their plan, what is their projected annual turnover. So we are liberalized it, and up to 33% of that the annual turnover, projected annual turnover, we are sanctioning those up to 33%. That is to reducing that the margin on the working capital and giving more time for the receivable periods. So these are the schemes which have, at least from the SBI, I can say that these are the schemes which can be covered for that MSME customers. So I think that whatever that in which category that customer is fit, they can avail that. Now coming that we are talking about that the micro, I fully agree that out of this 6 crores, that 99% are covered under micro, where they do not see how to approach the banks, how to go ahead about that things. So under which that for the micro units, that government has already come up with the schemes which we call it a Mudra schemes, under which there are 3 categories. One is a Shishu, another is Kishore, and the Taru. Under which even Shishu categories, where that the customer is eligible to avail up to 50,000. So 50,000 for the micro units who is going to start the business, or a very small business is going, I think 50,000 he can avail for that. For which I can say that, of course, approaching to branch, it's very difficult. Completing the formality is very, very difficult. So we have come up with a digital that the product which we call it a e-mudra. E-mudra means that customers manual intervention is not required. He's not supposed to visit our branch. He's not supposed to fill up any application in physical. He's not supposed to put up any that the manual intervention. That the just a portal in which he has to access, and that this is just a OTP based. And after that, completing that the journey in that, only minimum some that columns are there. After filling those columns, that he will be getting a OTP. So after putting up that OTP, automatically that 50,000 will be credited in his account, which is maintaining in our account, in our branches. So of course, this is for that the customers who are maintaining that the accounts in a savings bank account in our branches. So automatically that 50,000 goes in account or in her accounts. In which now again question is that how we will be filling up those applications. He is not aware how to that download that portals and all that. So I just like to share that we have that the BC channel, business correspondent channel, under which we have approximate 60,000 outlets, which we call that the customer service points, which are across that India, they are available. So these are the person who handles these type of micro units and help them out how to that download these portals and complete that journey, so they can just release the portal. So these are the schemes basically that is there, which we can be available to the customers.
Sanjay ji, I have a question with Subhash ji on this. First, this 3 lakh crore. You see what is happening on the ground. Every bank is following a different approach and different rate of interest on that. In fact, when it was a Government of India scheme, the government should have made it very clear with all the banks, PSUs and the private sector, that a rate of interest should move in a very, very narrow band, maybe 0.5%, not beyond that. Right now, what is happening, the rate of interest is varying from 7.5% to 9.25%, depending on the bank, PSUs and the private sector. Secondly, every bank, and not only every bank, every branch dictates its own way of paper requirement for this. Like Subhaji said, it has been very simplified, but unfortunately on the ground it is not like that. Every branch manager, it is his whims and fancy what kind of paper he will ask you. They see your face and demand the paper. This is what is being happening. And third thing, it is not a working, it is a term loan basically. Government has given you a term loan for a 4-year tenure to be repayment. It should have been made, instead of a term loan, part of your working capital limit. Suppose you have a sanction limit of 1 crore, 20% should have been added on that, which you are your option when you want to avail it. You want to avail it today, after 6 months, 3 months, and you keep on adjusting it also. So that you have a backup plan ready, that in coming 3-4 years, if you see your demand going up and you need some more money to buy the raw material, other things, you have this option. It's not like one time where you take the term loan and you are stuck with that. So I think these few things, if the government can do, there will be many takers for this scheme. And last, I thank Subhashi, which he has explained that this small, like he has a service center, 60,000 service center, because the biggest drawback which we have noticed, FISME, I tell you, FISME is a pan-India presence industrial association organization. We are a federation of the SMEs association spread all over the country. 700 industrial associations are linked with us, and which we get a feedback. The bank's approachability with the small units is very, very restricted, because what is happening, bank branches are not everywhere. Second, the bank officials who manage those branches, they keep on changing very often, 2 years, 3 years time. So they are not able to develop a relationship with the people there. So they go by the paperwork a lot. They depend on a lot. While the NBMCs, they had the last mile connectivity with the borrowers, and they had a better relationship. So they were ignoring the paperwork and going by their performance and their own contacts with those units, and they were funding them. Unfortunately, because of their own mismanagement, these NBFCs are in bad shape for the last 2-3 years. In fact, this sector has to be revived, re-strengthened with the help of the banks. Banks should, in fact, take over some of the, or maybe form some association with the NBFCs where the bank monitor their disbursal and manage them, because they have the last mile connectivity with the borrowers. Thank you.
बिल्कुल इस पर सुभाष जी से हम जवाब लेंगे, लेकिन इसके पहले चलते हैं मिसेस राव के पास भी, उनका एक बिग पिक्चर ओपिनियन लेते हैं। मैडम, समस्या ये है कि स्कीम अच्छी अनाउंस कर दी, लेकिन अगर बैंकों के डिस्क्रिशन पे और प्रोसीजर, फिर माइक्रो प्रोसीजर, फिर इफ एंड बट, उसमें इतने ज्यादा लगा देंगे तो देखिए आप सारे स्टेक होल्डर खुद ही सारी बातें बता रहे हैं कि कितना बड़ा एग्जीक्यूशन के लेवल पर नाइटमेयर उनको फेस करना पड़ रहा है। आप क्या समझती हैं कि ये बात सही है?
I think now government is aware that hand-holding is necessary in most of the fields. Honorable Minister Piyush Goyal had spoken to Indo-American Chamber members just day before, and he clearly said that they're going to have one window opening to every ministry where people can actually approach. And I think even SMSMEs, they are also doing district industrial centers. So that is once again a single window. And this is what government is planning. I agree these problems are there, banks are giving trouble. But once you have this Udyam registration number, and then you have this champion portal, and district industry center, and also now I'll have to talk about our international US business coming to India. So B2B reach and all that, they're also doing that. They're also having international SMEs gateway. That's what government is planning. It's a very big thing. Once that comes in with that, people can register there and start working. I mean, these are all systems coming into place, because India has been living with this, whatever we had problems earlier. But today, the situation is not that. Once you have that recourse to your anywhere and complain, and you have Udyam registration number, I'm telling you, it's like a big instrument in your hand. It's like going to consumer courts. I want to also clarify one thing, Sanjay ji, before people misunderstand. I have not been a national president of Indo-American for many years, Chamber of Commerce for many years. It's 9 months back I've taken up. Western region, I was a president earlier. I was in consumer courts for many years. That was a different
Absolutely,
thing.
Absolutely.
I just want to clarify, but I just want to say this one thing. lot of requests are coming to the economic ministry, economic affairs, where a lot of people are interested in doing business with Indian companies, all SMEs. So for that, they've already got a lot of requests, 3,015 requests have already come, the international B2B, and the matchmaking they're all trying to do. Like the first time, every department is opening up and trying to see how they can handhold. I'm not saying problems are not there. I've heard all of them, Subhashji's and everybody's, and I understand what's happening on the realities, ground reality. But what I'm trying to say is, when they're going to have cluster spaces, that's where they're going to have environment clearances, land is cleared up, and then people can actually start doing business because they're going to make it like.
ये आपने अच्छा बताया मैडम, अभी आपकी नॉलेज में कुछ आया ये इंडस्ट्रियल क्लस्टर पे स्पेसिफिक कहीं काम शुरू हो गया है, कुछ आपने देखा है?
Actually, Maharashtra itself have been talking to us and asking us to really invite people to take, and they will take us to Aurangabad, Nasik and Nagpur and all that. And they said the spaces are, they just bring them, we'll showcase, and we will give them all the necessary benefits. The problem is, Sanjay ji, the most important thing is these plans are beautiful. I'm truly happy. I mean, first time, I don't have any complaints on the planning part. The point is always execution. And the point is, we are looking at the small man who may not understand what we are discussing here. And all these things have to be taken to the ground realities of last mile, to the rural areas, to agri areas, and the B towns and everywhere, where it's like how they've understood how to use a mobile phone. Like that, they should understand this registration number is there. I can get this kind of money. This information has to be properly advertised. And I think government at all levels must make sure this information trickles down. That is the most important thing. People are misunderstanding that thing is happening, it's all on paper. But unless this is properly explained by the bankers and government employees to the last man there who doesn't understand. Yeah. And in regional language, they must explain at every level. सबको अपनी language में बताना चाहिए. फिर कैसे मालूम पड़ेगा?
Absolutely. Because most MSME players are kind of non-English speaking stakeholders, and talking to them in their language makes things very easy. But all these Telugu, Tamil, Marathi or Kannada translations, they come after the scheme date is over. Yeah. When the scheme is over, then
no. That is why I'm saying they have to hurry up and do this fast, otherwise it will fail.
Absolutely. सुभाष जी, आपने कई बातें तो एड्रेस कर दी थी, लेकिन फिर भी कुछ और सवाल हैं। जैसे कि एक मैंने अभी पूछा था आपसे कि छोटे बोरोवर्स के साथ पैन मैंडेटरी करने वाला जो प्रोसीजर के कई इश्यूज, उसमें से मैं एक एग्जांपल के तौर पर आपके सामने रखूंगा।
पैन देखिए अभी मैंडेटरी है बेसिकली, बिकॉज इट्स एक्सपेक्टेड दोज हु आर डूइंग द बिजनेस, इवन अ स्मॉलर बिजनेस और द बिग बिजनेस, दे शुड हैव दैट द पैन, बिकॉज पैन इज अ बेसिकली आइडेंटिफायर. Okay, how much sales you are doing and all that, ITR has to be filed and all that. But of course, this is a GSEL, this is a present scheme of the government. Still, we have that the smaller accounts, because this is again it's up to 25 crores. So here the customers are being covered who are having outstanding up to 5,000, 1,000, 10,000 and all that. So in which there most of that, or some of the customers not having that the PAN. So we have removed that this condition, mandatory condition, we have made it a non-mandatory. And we have also requested the NCGTC, those who are covering that the insurance covering, so they are also agreed for that, and they are also removing and making it a non-mandatory for these products, so that maximum people can avail this benefit.
बिल्कुल. दूसरा सवाल जो कि लगातार आरबीआई ने रेट कम किया और एक्सपेक्ट किया कि लोग इसको ठीक से पास ऑन करेंगे. कमर्शियल लोन के मामले में भी हालांकि रेट थोड़े कम हुए, लेकिन अभी और कहते हैं कि ट्रांसमिशन की गुंजाइश है. तो इसमें लीड हमेशा आपका बैंक एसबीआई करता है. उसके बारे में कुछ आप बताना चाहेंगे कि इंटरेस्ट रेट और कम करें?
Like rate of interest, like it's a very I can say that the repo rate. Because most of the banks, like at least SBI has linked our rates with the repo rates. We call it an external lending benchmark. Okay, so there is a transfer. Whenever there is a fall in repo rate, we are automatically reducing it. Like that, government RBI has already reduced that their repo rate by 40 basis points. So we are also passing this 40 basis points benefit to the customers. As of now, we are charging that the rate of interest 7.80 on GCL. So again, 1st of July. we are reducing it on that 7.40. So whatever 40 basis point, the 100% that we are passing on to the customers, the rate will be very, very reasonable for them.
राइट अब सेशन के फाइनल कंक्लूजन की तरफ चलते हैं, तो ये बात करते हैं कि नए और बड़े आइडियाज क्या हो सकते हैं। नितिन, एक अनाउंसमेंट आया, आपने सुना, गडकरी जी ने भी उसका जिक्र किया कि एमएसएमई एक्सचेंज बनाएंगे। आइडिया ये है कि इक्विटी कैपिटल को भी एक्सेस मिले और ग्रोथ कैपिटल इनको अवेलेबल हो पाए। लेकिन ये आपको अभी लगता है कि बहुत जल्दी रियलाइज हो पाएगा या ये थोड़ा अभी लंबी बात है?
There is one thing which Honorable Minister has said, that is funds of funds. ये हमने पढ़ा भी है न्यूज़पेपर में, that is what government has created for 50,000 crores. Wherein they're saying कि हम equity infusion करेंगे MSMEs के अंदर, and when they will grow, we will make an exchange out of it, via which the liquidity would be there, wherein people can invest and they can actually take out their money after a couple of years when the MSME has actually grown. That's a really great idea, I would say. Equity infusion kabhi nahi hua. We have always been talking about loans and MSME को lower rate of interest पे loan दे दें या फिर higher पे दे दें या किसी तरीके से उनको हम liquidity दे दें, but it's always in the form of loans. जितना भी investment आज startups में हुआ है, if you look at it, from last I think 5 to 7 years, it has all happened in app-based companies, not a manufacturing-based company or a small micro company जो actually में product produce करके बेच रहे हैं या फिर कोई एक ऐसा service में है which is giving rise to MSME. They're only doing investments in या तो app-based में करेंगे या फिर वो micro credit ऐसी companies में करेंगे जो जाके micro credit loans देंगी. So that is where all the investments are going on. So I think that's a really nice and a great initiative by the government, wherein they're forming funds on funds. But then problem ground level पे ही होगी, how they're gonna evaluate the startups, क्या valuations पे वो लोग लगाएंगे, and they've only said that only 10,000 crores is government is gonna put. बाकी 40,000 crore अभी उनको arrange करने हैं, wherein they're asking the other funds to invest their money into it and take care of this particular funds of funds. So I think that is a big question. अभी तो loan वाला issue sort नहीं हुआ है. I think equity infusion and getting into the trail of it's a long way, I guess, from here.
बिल्कुल। एक सवाल मैं लेके सोचता हूँ कि अनिमेश जी के पास चलना चाहिए। अनुपम तापड़िया पूछ रहे हैं कि लोन जो दे रहे हैं एमएसएमई को, ये तो बहुत अच्छा है, बट द लॉन्ग टर्म सोल्यूशन हैज टू बी टाइमली पेमेंट ऑफ एमएसएमई बाय गवर्नमेंट एंड लार्ज कॉर्पोरेट एंटिटीज। वी नीड अ परमानेंट सोल्यूशन। इसकी बात गडकरी जी ने भी खुद कही भी थी, आपने सुना अनिमेश जी। इसके लिए बहुत तरह के सॉल्यूशंस आप लोग देते रहे हैं, जिसमें से एक सॉल्यूशन ये था कि भाई सरकार के पास लिवरेज है, वो लार्ज कंपनियों को बोले कि एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर आइए, आपका कैश फ्लो मुझे दिख रहा है, जिसको पेमेंट देना है उसका हमको हाल पता लग रहा है, बीच में हम फैक्टर करने के लिए, डिस्काउंट करने के लिए बैंक्स को लेके आ सकते हैं, और एक बहुत ऑनेस्ट तरीके से एक ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म खड़ा किया जा सकता है इस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने के लिए। इस तरह के इनोवेटिव आइडियाज और भी बहुत कुछ हो सकते हैं, क्या ये सही है?
बिल्कुल सही है। एक तो जो हम लोगों ने फिस्मे की तरफ से गवर्नमेंट को दिया था, जो ट्रेड्स प्लेटफॉर्म है, इस पे अभी एलिजिबिलिटी शायद 500 करोड़ थी, अब थोड़ा शायद और नीचे की गई है। इसको हम लोगों ने कहा था कि इसको और नीचे लाया जाए, इसको करीब करीब 100 करोड़ के टर्नओवर तक ला दिया जाए कि उस पे ट्रेड से बहुत ज्यादा फायदा हुआ, वहां पर लोगों की डिस्काउंटिंग होने लगे बिल। और दूसरी चीज, जैसे मंत्री जी ने भी कहा, स्पेशली पीएसयूज और गवर्नमेंट, आप लोगों को शायद सबको पता होगा कि गवर्नमेंट हमारे यहाँ सबसे बड़ी बिजनेस एंटिटी हमारे देश में गवर्नमेंट है। तो पहले अगर गवर्नमेंट अपने पेमेंट सिस्टम को इम्प्रूव कर ले और अपने पीएसयूज में कि उनकी मैंडेटरीली 45 डेज में पेमेंट हो जाया करे, और ये ट्रेड्स में अगर आप 100 करोड़ तक की कंपनियों को ला दें सबको प्लेटफॉर्म पे, तो काफी बहुत बड़ी ये प्रॉब्लम रिजॉल्व हो जाएगी कि पेमेंट्स लोगों को टाइम पे मिलनी शुरू हो जाएंगी।
बिल्कुल। एक सवाल और है, और वो पूछ रहे हैं हमसे गौरव, वो ये है, और मेरा ख्याल है कि इसका जवाब सुभाष जी बेस्ट देंगे, कि हाउ टू गेट सीड फंड लोन टू स्टार्ट अ न्यू एमएसएमई।
Yeah, you see that lot of digital platforms are there where they can approach us, and we have the branches also. I just share with you because we were also getting the feedback. It's difficult to approach to the banks and all that. So recently, from 1st of June, we have revamped the SME structure like that. So we have placed one senior officer that is a AGM rank, At the AOs, we have the AOs. AOs means that different approximate we have as of now 100 and plus AOs at the different administrative offices. So we have posted one AGM. So it's a single contact person who can be approached for any sort of the loans and all that. And especially that branches are there. And we have the centralized processing cells also where they can approach and all that. And secondly, we have the portal, we call it a customer relationship management. So, and this is available on our SBI Times. So if they want to, they can just feed their request for the loans. Our people will be calling them. So it's a very, very easy now that customers to approach our branches through the CRM leads, and those leads we are monitoring from our end. There is a TAT also which that leads has been dealt with under which time. So that mechanism we have already developed, sir.
बिल्कुल। अनिमेश जी, एक क्वेश्चन आपसे मैं पूछना चाहूंगा, वो ये कि अभी आपने शुरू में ये बात कही थी कि डिमांड एक बड़ा इशू है, तो अब अगर हम चर्चा के आखिरी हिस्से में ये समझना चाहें कि आगे जाते हुए जो सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है कि जिस तरीके से ओपनिंग हो रही है, जिसमें ब्रेकेजेस है बीच बीच में, क्योंकि सप्लाई चेन पूरा नहीं हो पा रहा है, ट्रांसपोर्ट उसमें बड़ा इशू है, डिमांड क्यों नहीं क्रिएट हो रहा है, हमको सबको मालूम है कि क्या हाल है। तो ऐसे में डिमांड अगर क्रिएट नहीं होगी तो ये जो सप्लाई साइड की जितनी कोशिशें हो रही हैं, इससे निकलेगा क्या?
बहुत मुश्किल है, क्योंकि अभी जिस हिसाब से जो हेल्थ फ्रंट पे जो न्यूज आ रही है कि अभी इस डिजीज का, कोरोना पैंडेमिक का पीक अभी आना है। पीक कोई जुलाई की बात हो रही है, कोई हो रहा है कि अगस्त से टेपर होनी शुरू हो जाएगी ये चीज। तो एक क्या है कि एक बहुत बड़ा ये फियर साइकोसिस भी डेवलप हो रहा है, स्पेशली लॉट ऑफ पीपल लाइक जैसे जो वर्कर्स चले गए वो वापस आने को तैयार नहीं है बड़े सिटीज में, उनको पता है कि अभी पीक वहां आना है, क्योंकि रोज जिस हिसाब से खबरें आ रही हैं। दूसरा, इवन जो मिडिल मैनेजमेंट भी इन्वॉल्व है जो कंपनीज में ऑपरेशन करने में, वो भी बहुत ही ज्यादा स्केयर्ड है हेल्थ रिस्क को लेके कि वो अपने आप को कितना एक्सपोज करे वर्क प्लेस पे। तो इन सब चीजों को लेके ओनर्स भी बहुत ज्यादा स्केयर्ड हैं। अच्छा, दूसरे क्या है कि इतनी जल्दी जल्दी नॉर्म्स बदल रहे हैं हमारे यहाँ कि आज आपके पास अगर किसी वर्क प्लेस पे कोरोना हो जाएगा तो उसके लिए नॉर्म्स क्या है, एवरी डे देयर इज अ न्यू नॉर्म, एवरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट देयर इज अ न्यू नॉर्म, एवरी स्टेट देयर इज अ न्यू नॉर्म, कि 2 दिन के लिए आपकी फैक्ट्री बंद हो जाएगी या 6 दिन के लिए बंद हो जाएगी। इन सब चीजों को स्टैंडर्डाइज जब तक गवर्नमेंट नहीं करेगी, और थोड़ा सा लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए नॉर्म होने चाहिए कि मुझे पता होना चाहिए कि आज मेरे वर्क प्लेस पे अगर कोई किसी का एक पॉजिटिव केस निकल आया, अब वो आदमी इन्फेक्टेड 10 दिन पहले था ये हमें नहीं पता, आज अगर उसकी रिपोर्ट आती है हो सकता है वो रिकवरी के पाथ पर आ चुका हो। अब मुझे अपना वर्क प्लेस 1 हफ्ते के लिए बंद करना है, मेरे पास गाइडलाइन नहीं है, तो मैं उस प्रोडक्शन लॉस को इमेजिन करते हुए सोचता हूं कि हम ऑपरेशनल करें ही नहीं अपने आप को, because right now you're running the organization, the cost is higher than in normal times. You have to take all the security precautions, everything you have to follow, so your cost is high and demand is less, so you are spending more to produce less item. तो इस वजह से जब तक हम लोग इस अनसर्टेनिटी के एटमॉस्फेयर से नहीं निकलेंगे, अभी मैं आपको एक बहुत क्लासिक एग्जांपल बताऊं, 2 दिन पहले गुड़गांव में बहुत जबरदस्त नेशनल मीडिया में, न्यूज़पेपर्स में कवर हुआ कि लॉकडाउन इमिनेंट है और विद इन 48 आवर्स न्यूज आ रही है गुड़गांव में लॉकडाउन हो जाएगा। अब साहब उससे और पैनिक इतना हो गया कि विद इन 2 days आवर रिपोर्ट इज 15,000 पीपल लेफ्ट द सिटी, द वर्कर्स हु वर स्टिल देयर, because they felt another lockdown means 15 days no work, why to stay? Then yesterday they had a press conference, the administration, and they clarified no, we are going towards unlockdown, so lockdown नहीं होगा। तो ये सब चीजें जो हैं, जो अनसर्टेन एटमॉस्फेयर है, इस
बहुत कंफ्यूजन
ध्यान देना होगा।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। नितिन का भी एक टेक इस पर मैं लेना चाहूंगा। लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट इशू इज मैन पावर, द वर्कर्स ऑफ द आई मीन एट द बॉटम ऑफ द पिरामिड, जिनका हमने डिस्पैरेट माइग्रेशन देखा, फिर कुछ लोग लौट रहे हैं, तो अभी वहां क्या ट्रेंड हो रहा है माइग्रेशन का और वर्कर्स की अवेलेबिलिटी का और वेजेस का?
Sanjay ji, the workers are returning to some extent, जिनको बुलाया जा रहा है वापस काम पे, so they are returning, but then there are like Animesh ji said that they are scared, and that is true. We are also scared. We have opened up. हमारा middle management भी scared है, नीचे जो workers काम करते हैं वो भी scared हैं कि whether they have to come back to work, whether it is worth it or not. जो supply chain है, the cost of production is definitely has gone up because आपको limited number of लोग एक limited department में तो डालने पड़ेंगे to actually run that particular department. So हम produce बिल्कुल less कर रहे हैं, we're pertaining more cost per unit. So that is something which is all happening. But I think in the midst of it, I just have a question जो हमेशा मेरे आता है दिमाग में when I stop at the red light, there's a big hoarding there और वहाँ लिखा हुआ है that you should stay at home until and unless it is not required to come out from it. तो जो लोग वर्क फ्रॉम होम कर रहे हैं इतना ज्यादा उसको प्रमोट किया जा रहा है वर्क फ्रॉम होम, सो पीपल हु कैन अफोर्ड इट आर सेइंग कि मैं दिसंबर से पहले नहीं निकलूंगा घर से बाहर चाहे कुछ हो जाए, आई कैन अफोर्ड इट, मैं नहीं निकलूंगा. सो आई कैन ऑल्सो अफोर्ड इट, मैं भी नहीं निकल सकता हूँ. तो क्या मैं बाकी जितने 100 लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट अभी हम जनरेट कर रहे हैं, वी आर एक्चुअली ट्राइंग टू पुश हार्ड कि इकोनॉमी, चलो मैं अपने लिए कर रहा हूँ, दैट इज फाइन, बट via that there are 100 people which is associated with us, it's all have a domino effect. बाकी भी जितने लोग जुड़े हुए हैं, वेंडर्स जुड़े हुए हैं, उनके साथ जितने लोग जुड़े हुए हैं, that is also coming back. So ये काम करना है कि नहीं करना है, that is something, वो प्रोपेगेंडा गवर्नमेंट की साइड से बहुत क्लियरली नहीं आता है कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम किसको बोल रहे हैं. वो people who can afford it and who cannot afford it, मतलब वो जाके बाहर निकले
नहीं. आपने बिल्कुल सही बात कही. ये एक बहुत बड़ा डायलेमा हम सब लोग फेस कर रहे हैं. तो देखिए दो बातें हैं. एक तो ये है कि हेल्थ की इमरजेंसी एक है, फिर इकोनॉमी को रिवाइव करके लाइवलीहुड के लिए चला के रखना जरूरी है. और उसमें जाहिर है कि कोरोना का जो मैनेजमेंट है उसको लेकर के अभी भी बहुत कंफ्यूजन और कैओस है, उसके बीच में काम हो रहा है. और ये जो वर्क फ्रॉम होम है ना, ये दरअसल क्या है कि थोड़ा सा फैशनेबल स्लग या कैच वर्ड बन गया, तो बहुत यूज कर रहे हैं. हिंदुस्तान में 80 से 90% लेवल तक की इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी फिजिकल प्रॉक्सिमिटी में ही हो सकती है. यूरोप का आंकड़ा आपको मैं बता रहा हूँ, 50 से 60% ही काम वहां पर, 50% से कम काम ही पॉसिबल है वर्क फ्रॉम होम. 50 से 60% फिजिकली जा करके करना पड़ेगा. उसको करने के लिए से जो हेल्थ और सेफ्टी की रिक्वायरमेंट है उसको लेके बुरा ना माने कोई भी कि हम हिंदुस्तानी लोग बहुत ज्यादा अनुशासित नहीं है, अवेयर नहीं है, और उसमें भी हमसे गलतियां हो रही हैं. देखिए हुआ क्या है पिछले दिनों में, और ये एक तरीके से अच्छी बात है कि एमएसएमई सेक्टर पे बड़ा फोकस रहा है. देखिए इकोनॉमी रिवाइवल में चर्चा में एमएसएमई पे बात बहुत हुई है, और आई एम श्योर कि आप सब लोग एग्री करेंगे, खास करके निमेश जी, कि एमएसएमई पर जो फोकस है पॉलिसी मेकिंग में वो तवज्जो नहीं है. और इसको लगता है ये एक और काम है जो कर लेते हैं. पॉलिसी मेकिंग में प्रॉब्लम यहाँ पर है एमएसएमई को लेकर के. हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि इस बार जो चर्चा चली है ये और ज्यादा एम्प्लीफाई हो, ज्यादा बातचीत हो इस पर, और हम एमएसएमई को रियली मेन स्ट्रीम बैकबोन जिसको बोलते हैं ऐसा सेक्टर यहाँ से बना पाए. आप लोग जाइएगा मत. इसके बाद एक और जरूरी सेशन है, क्योंकि हम जो भी काम कर पा रहे हैं वो टेक्नोलॉजी के कारण कर पा रहे हैं, और टेक्नोलॉजी का क्या रोल होने जा रहा है न्यू नॉर्मल में, ये हमारा टेक्नोलॉजी फाउंडेशन पे नेक्स्ट सेशन करेंगे. हमारे जो स्पेशल प्रोजेक्ट एडिटर हैं आइवर सोन्स, और उनके साथ कुछ शानदार पैनलिस्ट होंगे. डोंट गो.
थैंक यू संजय जी.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. But one thing I need to tell, I think everybody needs to hold first micro level people. Their hand has to be held. Rest of the people will somehow manage understanding the subject and finding out how, what are the portals and champion portal, everything they will understand. Absolutely. And somehow manage. Yes. But micro people, as Animesh ji explained, their hand has to be held properly by the government and all.
Thank you, madam, Animesh ji, Nitin and Subhash ji. आप सब लोगों का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Don't go away. Next session is on technology in the new norm.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on this BloombergQuint MSME Day 2020 Virtual Summit Roundtable on building the technology foundation for the new and next normal, being held on the occasion of MSME Day. We've had a great panel just before this, and earlier we had Shri Nitin Gadkari, the Union Minister for MSME. It's been a rich couple of hours of some great discussion and insight. And now we hope to discuss a little more when it comes to this, when it comes to technology. Essentially, COVID-19, as we know it, has literally changed the world in every aspect. It's been unimaginable, the impact, right? But it has hit MSMEs the hardest when it comes to business. The government has also realized this, and there's a huge credit package available. And earlier during this event, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, the Union Cabinet Minister for MSME, spoke about the challenges. He spoke about what the government is doing. And our next panel decoded some of the financial and people issues, etc., at the heart of this crisis. At BloombergQuint, our intention behind hosting this virtual roundtable is really to discuss how technology can help MSMEs overcome this crisis and get back on the road to growth. We have some respected names in technology here today to decode some of these MSME challenges and opportunities. So let me begin by introducing our panel. And let me also state that two of them have rich experience. They themselves are MSMEs or startups, as we call it, their founders. And even our third panelist also calls herself an entrepreneur. So let me begin by introducing the lady on the panel. Taru Dahiya is an entrepreneur at heart, and she has spent over 18 years in the field of digital marketing and cloud technology. She is responsible for driving Google Cloud's business in India, Japan, and the ASEAN markets. And a key focus is to introduce the power of cloud solution to SMEs and MSMEs and help them make the most of some of these tools. Next up, we have Sanchit Veer Gogia. Sanchit, or he's better known as SVG on Twitter, is a globally recognized technology analyst, an innovation strategist, a digital consultant, and a board advisor. He's a serial entrepreneur again who started his first firm at the age of 16 and is an angel investor in several early stage startups. Sanchit is the chief analyst, founder, and CEO of Greyhound Research, a global award-winning technology innovation research and advisory firm. And finally, last but not the least, definitely, Saket Modi is the co-founder and CEO of Lucidius. I've known Saket and Sanchit for years. I've seen Saket take Lucidius to great heights. And Lucidius is essentially an enterprise cyber risk qualification and platform company. Saket founded Lucidius in 2012 when he was in his final year of engineering, and it was incubated at IIT Bombay and is currently headquartered in Palo Alto and is backed by Cisco's former chairman and CEO, John Chambers. Lucidius today protects the digital infrastructure of multiple Fortune 500 companies across the world. Even as we begin, may I remind you that we will take questions during this panel. I have a set of questions. We hope to run through it in about 45 minutes or so, but we hope to dedicate at least a chunk of this panel to questions. So I really encourage you to ask questions. As I begin, I want to start with you, Sanchit, because I think you started out the youngest too at 16. So therefore, let's start with you. MSMEs have never really found it easy to do business. They often struggle with credit, market access, technology, etc. During this particular crisis, that's a COVID-19 crisis, what are the stress factors that you think have been amplified? And what is the situation on the ground that the companies that you're advising are talking about?
Right. Thank you, Ivor, for having me here. By the way, I'm still 16, so I haven't changed much, just bloated a little bit here and there, that's all. Anyway, look, at the outset, I really want to congratulate all the fellow MSME founders, and I'll tell you why. Like we celebrate Father's Day, Mother's Day, it might just sound like a day in the calendar, but the fact the United Nations in 2017 actually came out and allocated a specific day to celebrate the contribution that MSME has goes a long way to tell the power that we as a sector have in the growth of a nation and in the growth of the economies globally. Now, before we speak of what MSMEs need, I think it's critical to understand who they are and where they are. So look, as an analyst firm, we track about 150 plus countries and the MSME sectors in all of these countries. And if you put the funds categorization and the way these countries promote, we have a rather interesting finding. Actually, 5 countries are home to the world's 50% MSMEs. The 5 countries are India, China, Indonesia, Nigeria, and United States. What not a lot of people actually know, that India in itself is home to the world's 15% population of MSMEs, which is expected to reach 25% of the world's MSMEs by 2025 alone. Which is very important and interesting because we have a MSME population which is almost double the size of China. China today has about 38. United States has about 30 million MSMEs. And the only country that comes close to us is actually Indonesia. So even before we start fighting the battles of these MSMEs, I think it's absolutely critical and fundamental for us to understand and have a historic view of the perennial challenges that these MSME sectors have been facing. Now, I think it's very, while, the writing on the wall is obvious that, technology-led growth here on is critical, and MSMEs will need to carve out a charter which will be, technology-led. But, what's also very critical to understand is that there are perennial issues, and there are 6 issues which Indian MSMEs have been fighting. And I remember my first stint of entrepreneurship was before Y2K, 1999. And I tell you, I still face these issues, and I'm still facing these issues today. So there is a consistency here. The first one is the dearth of easy access to finance in terms of instruments. Second of all is the very limiting regulatory policies. As we've seen, the change in regulatory policies means that an MSME cannot actually go out and make a decision and sort of just keep depending on it. They have to keep on top of the regulation as well. The third biggest issue is the unavailability of modern and affordable technology. तो यहाँ पे मैं आपको छोटा सा एक story सुनाना चाहूँगा. I was in Varanasi and Ahmedabad, and we were doing this entire MSME road tour across tier 2 and tier 3 towns. And what was very fascinating was a paradox that we saw in the evolution and the adoption of technology. और ये कुछ 3-4 साल पहले था. When we had a group of people in Surat in the room, and when we asked them, do they use technology? Not everybody actually raised their hands. But when we asked them, everybody who all uses WhatsApp to speak to their customers, everybody was raising their hands. So the fact is that technology has gotten embedded into our lives so much that we don't realize that we're using a lot of these latest technologies just because they're consumerized and made accessible on the mobile phone, which wasn't possible earlier. So a lot is changing. Having said that, look, that focus group that we spoke to, these were about 45, 50 Surat guys, top traders, clothing traders, and these were your diamond traders. What they came back and said was, I said, so one of the questions we posed to them was that if you were to go to, let's say, a Microsoft, IBM, Google, क्या आप उनके साथ business करना पसंद करेंगे? So the immediate responses, नहीं, वो लोग बहुत महंगे हैं, उनकी technology बहुत advanced है. So, and what these guys don't probably end up realizing is that all of these technologies, be it productivity tools, emails, are now today accessible at their smartphone. So there's a bit of a paradox. There's a lot of misunderstanding as well. While they're already using technology in a very significant way, what they probably do not have an understanding is that how is cloud relevant for me? How can probably I use data? How can I use analytics? Because they're stuck in these issues. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the guys in Surat told me that, sir, हमारे यहाँ बिजली नहीं आती, तो हमें focus हमारा is not technology. Focus हमारा ये है कि हमारे यहाँ बिजली पानी आनी चाहिए ताकि जो हमारा production है, that shouldn't stop at all at any given stage. So a lot of these issues we are continuing to fight in the country. And for example, the issue of skilled labor, I must give you this example that one of the longest standing issues in the country, and we shouldn't just consider services sector, because services sector is a rather evolved sector. In the manufacturing sector, the largest issue has been, I know that, is the lower education levels overall, right? So how do we get our workers, one, to train them and skill them? Second of all, how do we improve productivity? Is a very long-standing task. So my, of course, we all understand that technology is the future, but technology cannot be a future unless and until it goes down to the ground roots, the roots level of the trader, of the MD and the owner, and helps them solve a specific situation. So like WhatsApp is free and is being used. The only difference is today you can't pay on WhatsApp, but in the eventuality that feature functionality will also come. And
I'm sure it's going to come, Sanchita, and we all know how it's going to come. And I know you gave a really wide range of instances, some wide range of challenges, etc. And hopefully during the course of this discussion, we will take up all of this. I guess the issue of cost when it comes, this entire perception of cost, really. Maybe Taru can deal with that. She works for Google. But before that, I wanted to quickly throw a question to Saket. And this was really when it comes to the definition of MSMEs itself, Saket. In fact, one of the things that Mr. Nitin Gadkari said was that the government has changed the definition, and that is expected to help MSMEs. But some say they're MSMEs, some say they are startups, and of course, I find it's almost like the cooler guys, the funded guys say they're startups, while everybody who's in manufacturing says they are MSME. So, what is the dissonance that this really creates, and especially in the light of this COVID-led disruption? What's your take on that, Saket? I think you need to unmute yourself, Saket.
Sorry, my bad. Firstly, I would thank you for the opportunity. It's an honor to be here, and it's incredible to see what you guys are doing for the MSMEs, and hopefully people go back with some good learnings from here. And your question about definition of MSMEs, in my limited understandings, because I am an MSME myself, according to the definition, any definition in the world about MSME in terms of the revenue, in terms of headcount, etc., etc. But I have never seen a single person categorize me as a MSME, right? Everybody who I talk to, you say, oh, you're a startup, right? And it really struck me very hard when, I have a product which actually gives us cybersecurity score to any company that we go and deploy it at. It's a score between 0 to 5. Now, the score is a function of which industry you're in, which geography you're in, and the size of your company. So, when you make a product, the first thing, it's called dog fooding, you do is you set it up in your own company, right, to be able to test it. So while we were setting that product up in our own company, the first question was, oh, by the way, we are not a large company. Our revenue still is not more than $1 billion. So we are in the small and medium scale industry, which is there. Now, it struck me for the first time, oh, yeah, even I am an SME or a MSME that is really there. And then when I double clicked, I really figured out that, look, I think traditionally, at a time when setting up the business required, if not thousands, but probably hundreds of crores of rupees to set up a plant, to set up a manufacturing unit, getting the permission from the government, having a surname which is XYZ. I mean, all of those were almost like a prerequisite to actually start even a small business. Forget about a large business, right? And therefore, you always had this whole thing around, there'll be this category of companies which will be small, but then, that needs a very heavy upfront investment. Now, if you really see the new app economy or an API economy that we are living in today, it takes $25 to set up an account on the Google App Store or the Play Store. And it literally takes a weekend for a second-year computer science engineering student to come up with the first version of a mobile application. So in other words, you can have a ready product on the App Store or the Play Store at $25. And if you want to register a proprietary company, that's probably another 15,000 rupees, right? So $25, which comes to 1,500 rupees and 15,000 rupees. You have, like, in 20,000 rupees, you have a company registered, you have a product in the market, and you're already taking feedback from customers. Now, the reason why I brought that up is most companies traditionally have not put technology in the center of their business plans of what and how they reach to their customers, or how do they build products, etc., etc. I think mindset-wise, we think of them as MSMEs. And startups in general become those companies which are really leveraging technology. Now, I have no problems in terms of the nomenclature. But the problem I feel that MSMEs will have moving into the future, they will become extinct, not because of government funding was not there, or laws or regulations were too high, etc., etc. They've been like that forever. But because there was another startup which was started by a fourth-year engineering student, which took over them within the first 70 days of them in the market. And by the way, they are far more efficient, easier to use, blah, blah, blah. So my only thing there is that, more than the nomenclature, the smaller companies need to reinvent themselves, where they probably starting, the first step can be, they say, we are a startup, we are not an MSME. And by the way, Amazon calls itself even today a day zero company. So there's no problem, even if you're like $1 billion in revenue, call yourself a startup. And when you do that, the mindset you need to change, where everything that you need to, go in, you need to leverage technology. And I think the most amazing transformation I see is with our Prime Minister himself. Even after being 70 years of age, I think the way he leverages technology has really changed the landscape of how the whole political ecosystem uses technology. And I spend a lot of time I'm based now in California. Even the United States or UK is not seeing politicians doing that. I think the same change needs to come for small and medium businesses, where they start leveraging technology and change their business model in a complete way. And I think that will actually be beneficial for the society, for themselves, etc. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely, Saket. I think when you say the technology needs to be at the heart of what they do, right? I think that is very, very critical as to how MSMEs see themselves. And I think that perception is really, that's really where a huge part of the answer lies. Taru, I want to come to you, and basically one recent survey says that out of the 75 million or so MSMEs based in India, only about 16 to 18 million have a social media and or an online listing or a website. And out of the 5 million or so domain names in India, only about half or so have an actual website. Why is it that MSMEs, you feel, have missed out on this very basic of technology-enabled tools for business? Sanchit spoke about WhatsApp. Everybody does use WhatsApp. Why is it that India still remains a do-it-for-me market? And do you see this disruption? I mean, you've been speaking to MSMEs, SMEs across Asia. So what is it that you're changing, that you're seeing change happening? How is change happening? And what are tech companies like Google, etc., doing about it?
Sure. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I think it's great to have an MSME day. I feel very passionate about small, medium businesses, and I think great way to just make them feel very special. Now, coming back to your question, let me give you a very recent example, right? Let me start with an example. Let's go to Lucknow, right? A small flower business owner, Harsimran, runs a small company called Maya Flowers. He started his business back in 2009. And as you can see, the need for people ordering flowers or bouquets, it's kind of declining, right? Due to the lack of supply is one, but also the demand from the consumers. What he did, he reoriented his business, right? And why he reoriented is because, one, he feels that if this is not what's selling, right, he's going to run out of business very soon. What really stood out for him at that point in time is, can he actually diversify his business, look at any other local business, and he found one within Lucknow, which dealt in cakes, and served consumers for their special events in quarantine. What Harsimran did was he updated his Google My Business profile, he enabled contactless payments, and this prompt digital shift award helped him sustain and pull through these tough times, right? And such relentless spirit I've seen across many of these SMEs, not just in India, across the globe as well. So to your point, yes, this positive change. I see this disruption is actually causing small and medium businesses shift more proactively towards technology. Now, coming back to what Google is doing, right? What my organization is doing to help these small and medium businesses during this time. Helping small and medium businesses to actually become digital and go digital way has always been central to our efforts. Whether it's in India or Southeast Asia, we've been committed to this for many years now. There are programs, there are solutions that actually remove the barriers. And when I say barriers, Sanchit talked about that a bit in terms of enablement, right? Skills. Everybody wants to be in that field. Do they have the skills to adopt that? Do they have the skills to adjust their current business model? So this is what we are looking at, right? And I know you mentioned just 68% of Indian SMBs had no digital presence a few years ago. If you look at Google My Business, that's a free listing where any small, medium business can come online and put a free listing. That has, pretty much, I would say, over 26 million SMBs at this point in time have built their web presence. So that's the kind of movement that I'm seeing shifting towards the social as well as just building their presence online. And every month overall, just to kind of share more stats with you, we drive over 150 million direct connections between these businesses and consumers, including whether it's calls, it's emails, it's any other connections for that matter. So in summary, if I have to, share, I am seeing a lot of positive changes. Yes, enablement is needed. There's credit liquidity that's becoming like much of a stress factor for them. At the same time, I think there's a perception, there's a belief whether we'll be able to pull out of this, and that's why we need this forum as well as all of us to kind of call that out, that there are tools and technology available for them to go through this time.
I wanted to also ask you what are, and this is not just for Google, I don't want to put Google in the spot alone here, but I think one of the key issues is really also the cost of technology, right? And certainly SaaS models definitely help, and nobody is saying you even go to infrastructure as a service. You maybe start with software as a service, but are you seeing that companies, especially in the light of this crisis, which is making MSMEs really conserve cash and look at every rupee that they're spending? Are companies really reducing prices, giving more bundles for free, etc., adding more stuff, etc.?
I'll talk through the solutions that I've seen working really well from a remote working environment for MSMEs, especially during this pandemic time. Definitely, if you would have seen the latest, coming from us, Meet, right, which is an enterprise-grade video conferencing tool that we just made available for free for pretty much everyone, right? And that's something I would say, keeping in mind that MSMEs, one, it needs to be, cost-centric. Do they have that kind of budget right now to be able to implement these solutions, right? So Google Meet is one. Then you look at from a G Suite perspective, which is again a productivity. How do you really make sure that your work, people in your company are working and they have that kind of, collaboration happening remotely, whether it's Google Docs, Google Drive, you name it, and you have it, right? How do they compare from a price-sensitive market like India? Right, and if you look at that, yes, that's definitely fits in there from a price sensitivity perspective. From other, like, I would say there are organizations that are looking at different models, whether it's a CRM, whether it's accounting from that perspective. So I see definitely there's a shift just to support MSMEs and making it much more, price sensitive and make it more cost effective for MSMEs in India.
Yeah, in fact, I certainly think, what, again, you gave Google as an example. I think Google Meet was a great idea, and again, bringing it to market so fast. And I guess Facebook has also done some amazing stuff over there, bringing stuff very quickly to market. And we've seen it, right? What's happened with WhatsApp and Geo, etc. Sanjay, moving back to, I want to really come back to the government. And again, you are an observer of this entire space. So when it comes to the government, in your conversations, etc., with the MSME founders, etc., do you feel that enough has been done on credit when it comes to, and especially things like getting the ability to really buy some of these technology? Because while some things you can buy on a SaaS model, really not everything is possible there, right? Especially when you integrate with, let's say, a global supplier, you need an ERP. And that is not often available at a similar. You can't just swipe a card. But also, what about things like plug-and-play clusters with ready infrastructure, etc.? And also, the government has tried to develop R&D and transfer tech and knowledge to MSMEs. For instance, this could have become very big during COVID, given the need for testing equipment. And it has happened, but it's happened at a very, maybe at a very small level. So what's your take on the government really, and more in terms of what the government has done during this crisis? What could they have done better, and what have they done right?
Right. All the tough questions for me. Thanks, Ivo. So look, I think so. You see, when you look at it from a managing director, CEO's point of view, technology essentially has a twofold meaning. Of course, while the one part is information technology, and we'll come to that, and that is the cloud, SaaS, infrastructure, all of that. The other important aspect from a managing director's perspective is the OT, which is the operational technology, which a lot of these people are using today in their manufacturing hubs. Now, why is this critical? Is that because while there's a ton of investments already happening from the likes of Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and others who are opening up their doors from a cloud perspective, investing in the country, and also have dedicated workforce like Taru here on the MSME charter. But purely on the OT side, a lot remains to be done from a hand-holding perspective. I'll give you an example. The automation of factories is a broader conversation in terms of the fourth industrial revolution. And our friends in Germany and other countries have done a lot in terms of robotic arms, using artificial intelligence, machine learning, at the grassroots level, even in smaller manufacturing units. So what we do not see enough and more is hand-holding in terms of these more matured organizations, teaching the organizations in India. I'll give you another example. The fact that today where we are, we want to actually be the beneficiary of what from a Make in India campaign, especially because of the relationship between US and China is breaking away. And we can very well be. Having said that, if you look at the electronics manufacturing, in so many years, we haven't been able to establish one silicon fab in the country in a very significant way, which means that there is absolutely no visibility and possibility for us to start manufacturing successfully televisions, mobile phones, and a lot more in this country. So while we have made great progress when it comes to IT, and especially around cloud and software as a service, and maybe even infrastructure as a service, we are moons away, I would say, from a OT standpoint. Now, that's one part of the conversation. The other significant part of the conversation is this division between India and Bharat Fiber. While the tier 1, tier 2 cities and managing directors there are very involved, there are more events, people go and attend them, there's a lot of exchange of information. What happens, especially in tier, is that their ability to understand and consume technology is far lesser compared to the tier 1 and tier 2 counterparts. From a launch of programs ground is that government is doing its bit to launch a lot of these new programs, even announce funding. But a lot of this time, the funding and actually also the noise around the funding and the awareness does not reach.
I think, Sanjit, you may be facing some broadband, some connectivity issues. I think
SMEs face that all the time.
Yeah, I know, and I think that is one thing we should definitely discuss. In fact, yeah. So, Sanjit, you were saying something. I think you were facing some broadband issues. You unfortunately your screen froze. Are you able to hear us?
Work from home is really work.
Yeah, sometimes.
So sorry, guys.
Sometimes it does.
Where did you leave me? Where did you lose me?
Yeah, you were talking about what the government was doing, I think just a few seconds ago. I think that's
okay.
where, yeah.
Okay, so exactly. I think what the government is doing is launching a lot of these schemes, but it's the implementation and awareness of the ground level, which is a big question mark. So I was saying the difference between India and Bharat is important. Our view of India is what we see in tier 1 towns, but we ought to go down to the MDs and CEOs at the tier 3 towns and talk to them, and the awareness is very low. We've done these studies together, Ivor, since 2014, and awareness has been an issue ever since. So I don't think this is a new issue. While what is definitely changed is the fact that our ministers like Gadkari Saab and everybody else is out there and committing themselves again to the cause. But I think it's the proliferation down below which is a real essence here.
Okay, so let's just deal with that elephant in the room, really, connectivity, right? And work from home has really made it a huge thing. In fact, I've been on webinars where people have had 4 different levels of fiber connectivity, and still things have failed. So, Paru, I really want to ask you. Sanchit said India and Bharat are very different, right? And again, even for MSMEs too, that's very true. While in the metros, we definitely have much better connectivity, but it's definitely not so in the Bharat that we know. So what can really be done about this? Because this is not something that MSMEs can really do much about. I mean, they can leverage SaaS, etc. When it comes to AI, machine learning, and all that. But when it comes to just basic connectivity, often that's a huge challenge. And what role really will cloud, etc., play when it comes to this challenge?
Sure. I think connectivity, we just saw this with Sanchit, right? Like, and I face that sometimes, considering I'm on the bandwidth is really, really strong out here in my house. But still, I think that's very valid. And that needs to be, that needs to be part of the business continuity planning that the MSMEs need to bring in, right? Like, whether it's we will talk about work from home environment. This is going on for a while. This may go on for a while, right? So this needs to be baked in very well. What can we do in this scenario? I think it needs to be a strong partnership between the telcos, between the government, right? Like, and really calling out the need, stretching it beyond the tier 1 markets, tier 2, tier 3 is where we see this to be, internet penetration rates to be low. The connectivity is not that strong. I feel that there needs to be a close partnership across the multiple players here. Now, with respect to what can cloud, your question was also cloud. I think from a cloud perspective, what I would say is this is the need of the hour, right? Like, this is something that, we would, in the past, MSMEs were, I remember back in 2013, give you a story. I joined the cloud team in Google, and I asked the customers about their requirement, and they said, what is cloud, right? And why do I need it? 2 years later, the question changed to, yes, I think I need it, but which one to go with, right? And then now today we're talking about, yes, this is actually what we need, and there are many players out there, and it can be a combination of all, right? What we could do in this scenario, to be very honest, like, what's the offering? Is it a remote working environment? Is it productivity? Is it collaboration? Is it, just thinking about you don't have to go to the office to just switch on your servers, or just make sure the labor, you have the labor available to manage your private servers? That can all be transitioned over, right? Like, I think this is where cloud can really come and help from an automation perspective. And there you go. I think we also have electricity, not just connectivity. We also have electricity issues. But yeah, I think that's where I would say, like, from a cloud perspective, absolutely, there are elements of just helping you automate, helping you improve your productivity, collaboration, create that really ideal remote working environment for you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think we should get into the power part, because I think that's a whole different panel by itself. But definitely, I think connectivity is something that is hugely critical for MSMEs, especially in the Bharat that we know. Of course, we've seen things go. I've been a tech journalist for 20 years. I've seen India's first data center come in, which was just a little more, a public data center, which is a little more than a small room. And today, the same company, NetMagic, has a couple of buildings next to my home. Actually, 4 buildings. They're building the next one. So and it's grown so much. But yet, I think when it comes to going down to B and C class cities, that is there. But again, that's something that will not happen immediately. Saket, I want to come to you with the question on the other aspect of technology. We've discussed issues like cloud. We've discussed how companies can MSMEs can even leverage technologies like AI, ML, etc., using some of these SaaS models. But what about security? What are some of the security issues that you've seen during the pandemic? We know from data that there's been a massive rise in fraud. And again, what happens is that MSMEs often get the hardest hit. And especially as some of them have gone digital for the first time, what have you seen? And what do you think they can do better on their security posture to adopt a security first approach? Do they really need to come to consultants like you do? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm going to start from the last question. I think given the proliferation of technology being used for your CRM, for your ERP on the cloud, you take SaaS solutions. No, you don't need consultants. You don't want to be wasting your money on consultants. But before I go to security, I will, with your permission, I'll take just 2 minutes on the connectivity point which you mentioned, because something very interesting that I hear this all the time, but it's just, I feel most people don't know about it, or they don't realize it, because connectivity being a challenge, bandwidth being a challenge, is something that we've all grown up listening to, right? India has been obviously not in the forefront of things in the past. Just to give you scale and size, and these are real numbers, the bandwidth, the speed of internet that today a Reliance Jio gives is 7 times more than the fastest wireless LTE or 4G provider in the United States. This is just setting the context. I'm talking about 7 times, not 70% better, not 7% better. 7 times, right? And it's very funny, you actually put the word cloud and connectivity in the same bracket, because this whole genius of the architecture which was built for Geo is actually by a guy who now has built a network, a cellular network on the cloud, who's right now the CTO of Rakuten, is a guy called Tariq Amin, who used to be the leader of architecture for Reliance Jio. And he did this incredible stuff of, that scale and size. So even as India, with Reliance Jio, what they've done, right? And again, I'm not biased by any means, right? I don't have anything to earn here, but just purely by knowing the global telco and service provider market and serving a lot of very large service providers around the world, and knowing their legacy systems and what today the geos of the world, the geos of India have to offer, people need to just understand that, look, you're at a far better place than what you would be if you were in a tier B or a tier city in the United States or even the United Kingdom or any country in the world. And now the network is finally going to the cloud, even the cellular network, and a lot of incredible, exciting times coming in the future. Coming to the security point, which you mentioned, Iva, I think that's also a very, very interesting thing, because the way in the physical world, your physical security is important. When you make the centerpiece of your business as technology, the security of technology becomes the paramount concern of yours, right? They say this all the time. The easiest way to never have a cyber attack is never be on cyber, right? I mean, yeah, that is true, but then you will die if you're not on cyber, irrespective of the size of the company. So coming to your point about what do the small companies need to be worried about? I think first step is heavily dependent on SaaS businesses, right? I mean, I think Taru gave an example of somebody who's an e-commerce vendor. I mean, it's a great time to be an e-commerce vendor right now. But on the other side, I mean, that's a very small category of your actual MSMEs. For them to build the day-to-day operations, how do you leverage technology? That's where your G Suites and your CRMs, which are Zohos and Freshworks or ticketing, etc., all of they come into the picture. And they're fairly competitive in terms of the price that they actually offer, and definitely far cheaper than you setting up a server, setting up a team which actually codes a CRM software of your own. I mean, it's just not even, it's not even funny how big of a difference that is. Now, when that happens, you want a dedicated, expert in-house. That's a far cheaper option than actually having an external consultant who can be there. Now, that can be a technology guy who's done some very basic certifications on security, who can actually tell you even basics. And what most people don't realize, you don't need to be 100% secured. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, when he's asked this question, what is the number one worry of him? He said cybersecurity 4 months back. There's a man-made worry that he has a lot. The reason I'm saying that to you is, whether it's a large company or a small company, you can never be at 100% secured posture. What you need to do is have those very basics in place, like definitely having two-factor authentication in every transaction you do, your email, definitely having an antivirus, definitely having the latest operating operating system which is there. These are very basic, very, very easy, hygienic things which take more than 90% of the threats away from MSMEs that are there. You don't need a full-fledged consultancy coming to you and actually serving you and things around that. And the beauty is, if that's not enough, now there's a host of cyber insurance providers only focused on MSMEs. So you will see the biggest cyber insurance providers in the world. In India, there'll be HDFC Ergo, AIG, all of these guys. They have dedicated programs for cyber insurance for MSMEs which are there. And the number one claims that come every year there is something called business email compromise. What that means is, there'll be an email that will come from a vendor of yours, which will say, I have changed my bank account number. Can you please transfer this amount of money in this bank account? And you would make that transfer. The CFO would make that transfer, because the CFO couldn't even think that there can be a phishing email or a forged email that could come to them, and they will make the transfer. This is the number one reason for cyber claims by MSMEs, which have happened. So summing up, you don't need some super expertise judgment. What you use as a product, see from a security lens, enable all the security configurations, especially two-factor authentication. That takes away 90% of your threats. And then just be aware that hacks can still happen, and buy cyber insurance, which I think is a good place to be. Sorry, it was a long answer, but I just want to give a couple of actionables in there.
Thank you, Saket. I think most of us do not know that part about Reliance Jio. And thanks also for clarifying that there is no investment from Jio in you, because for a minute I was also wondering about that. But anyway, thanks. But I think really Jio is really a fascinating story. And again, what they plan for MSMEs is really huge, is going to be transformative. And let's hope that they manage to do a lot of what they do, because that will help Indian MSMEs also. Sanjit, quickly coming back to you, and we're really running out of time, maybe before we go to questions from the audience. One of the real challenges really is the critical connect between Indian MSMEs and global counterparts. For instance, a lot of Chinese companies enjoy great linkages with global firms, and that gives them seamless access to global value chains. However, in India, that is often a challenge, especially because global players need suppliers to integrate with their complex tech systems and feed in data in standardized formats, etc. So, how do you think Indian MSMEs can really rise to this challenge? What's your take on that? And also, quickly, if you could tell us a little bit about from your expertise as an advisory firm, what are the areas that MSMEs should look to when it comes to automation?
Sure, thank you. First of all, just 10 seconds of silence for Saket for killing the entire consulting business model. People do need consulting. Anyway, back to the more serious answer. So look, if you track back the journey on one of the issues, that the longest standing issues that MSMEs has had is the access to ecosystem and networks. Now, traditionally, what has happened is that while Walmart and everybody else was here in the country, they were primarily in the country from a sourcing perspective. But after companies like Flipkart started investing tremendously in setting up warehousing and e-commerce models, and also onboarding MSMEs, much has changed, actually, Iva. Now, in fact, companies like Flipkart, Amazon, Paytm, and many others, even including Milk Basket and Big Basket, they've been investing top dollar actually in onboarding MSMEs and giving them the requisite technology to modernize themselves. And this is the exact battle that even Jio is going after. So let me give you just a couple of minutes of background as to what's happening here. So while we have wonderfully painted the picture of MSMEs wanting to use technology, but what we've also realized, there's a paradox that they do not have the expertise nor the bandwidth to use technology. So Jio and the others, what they're going out and doing is to use simplistic applications and probably a POS and go at the end of a merchant or let's say a warehousing person and say, why don't you use this technology? And it's as simple as we will train your people who can scan a QR code, and all the inventory data will start coming back to us. Now, that is a significant layer of investment in infrastructure, applications, and data automation, which is already happening. But to access that, you need to be, as an MSME, participating in a certain ecosystem, right? So let's say if you sign up with an Amazon, or if you sign up with a Flipkart, they'll come, or if you sign up with a Paytm, they will come, give you the equipment, even train you, which will allow you the automation from a supply chain and inventory perspective and exchange of data. So I think as a country, as a nation, we have made great progress. And if as MSME sellers, MSME owners align themselves to specific ecosystems, much can be achieved. And I think, Iva, this is a critical point to talk about, and I'll tell you why. Right through 2010, 14, and 15, the lack of such ecosystems and the ability or the lack of such buyer networks has been the greatest issue in the country. And that is being resolved because of these large investments. So I think we have to take cognizance that, that I'll give you an example. There was a case study recently we were a part of. It's a small company in Nagpur, and they primarily was selling shoes, and they were procuring shoes from China and other places and selling them in physical stores. Now, unfortunately, of course, they have to shut their business model because the China procurement is not going to work and the retail format is not going to work. But what the gentleman did very intelligently was to use one of these e-commerce channels, became part of a ecosystem, and got their technology and started selling on their buyer networks. So I think we have come a long way, honestly, Iva, to managing that problem around giving MSME the technology. In fact, I must mention in the recent report that we wrote about Reliance Jio, is that they have been investing a ton of money in technology at the back end to buy technology players that will facilitate the onboarding of MSMEs. So, for example, there was a company called Aram Shop that they actually acquired. And what Aram Shop was actually doing was just this, to make technology to facilitate the transaction between the buyer and seller, even the procurement. What's interesting here is that Jio has gone a step ahead and said, if you as a reseller of ours, if you're part of our ecosystem, one of the biggest challenges that a reseller has today is the filling of GST forms. So they have come up with an application called My GST, which essentially allows you to automate your GST filing so that you're 100% compliant as well. So I think automation is going to be one of the biggest impacts that India will have. And MSMEs will tremendously benefit. Of course, look, this is a scary picture because we're anyways as a country looking at a jobless growth scenario. We spoke about it last time, and we spoke about employability as well. So the fact that the laborers move back to the villages, and that will force a lot of these retailers and manufacturers and MSMEs to start doing automation in a very significant way. So we're looking at an automated world for sure, but also an unemployed one.
Okay. Thank you, Sanchit. What I'll do now is, we have thousands of people who are actually watching us across social, etc. And I've got a few questions that have come. So let me, before I have one final question for you all, wherein I hope we can round this entire thing up. But before that, I want to take some of these questions with your permission. So the first question is from Gaurav Chaubal. And Gaurav asks, what are the common must-haves in terms of technology for any new MSME? Taru, perhaps you want to take this one, and perhaps any Sanchit, Saket, if you all also want to add to this.
Sure. As keeping in mind where we are today, I feel just having the right set of tools, one of the requisites, right, is having the right set of tools. Whether it's, I've spoken about this in the past as well. This way that enables remote working, that enables working across continents, work across your a manufacturing company, having different units, just building that collaboration and connections. The second piece will be enablement. I think that's definitely important. If you have the technology and if you're not enabled to use the technology, like how would you move forward? So the second piece is just the enablement piece. And the third one, I won't put this in the tools, but I would say just having that confidence and belief, right? The latest report, I think it's All India Manufacturers report, like 35% of MSMEs have actually shut down shops. And a majority of those felt that or had the belief that things will not recover for them, right? So it's not a tool per se, but I would say just having that confidence and belief that things will be better, and that hope is very important.
You wanted to say something, Sanchit?
So
I think we're facing
technology from MS.
We can't hear you, Sanchit. I think you're facing some problems with your.
So is this any better?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, so I think from a technology perspective for MSMEs, I think it's important to look at technology from four key layers. One is purely from a customer layer perspective, if you ask me. Look, a lot is changing from a business model, and today the fact that if you're not in e-commerce can be extremely detrimental for your business model. So first and foremost, MSMEs must implement all customer-facing technology, which includes things like going online, having a great website, enabling, let's say, e-commerce tools or having a mobile app, essentially having a strong, formidable online presence from a sales perspective. At the same time, there's a ton of technology out there which allows you to automate data collection. Now, why is that critical? Is because the more MSMEs know their customers, the better they can use that to mine their customers and probably further their relationships. So the first bucket that MSMEs must look at is your customer-facing technologies. Okay. The second bucket, which is very critical, is the employee-facing technologies. Now, why is this important? Is because today the fact that a lot of organizations are deemed to work from homes, they do not necessarily have the most simplest collaboration tools, like let's say Google Drive, for example, or the Microsoft tools, or let's say the other tools as well. So I think having productivity tools for employees for productivity is absolutely critical. At the same time, having a cloud-based access, because a lot of traditional organizations prefer to not buy subscriptions online, not go to cloud, instead have on-premise applications. So probably just from an employee productivity as well, if you the HR and payroll management systems as well, if one can have a cloud-based access which will allow both secure access and scalable access, ensuring productivity at all points in time. The third bucket, which is very critical for MSMEs to have, is from the operations part. Let's take the example, let's say if you're a retailer or you're a manufacturer who wants to sell online on one of the ecosystems, like be it Amazon or Geo or anywhere else, what you ought to have is the ability to do financial management, because networks and ecosystems like these will deem you to share data on an ongoing basis, both from compliance and second, inventory visibility perspective, and third of all, even from a GST compliance. So having financial management software is also very, very critical. Now, in the times we are right now in the COVID, and especially, this will become permanent here on, investing in inventory management and logistics applications at some stage as well can be very important to bring visibility both sides to the customer and for yourself as to where are the goods that will allow that there is no pilferage in the system. And these are very essential items to have. Last but not the least, I think purely from a technology layer, while you're doing all of this, what will happen eventually is that you will have a mini systems like what enterprises have. So what you definitely need is, let's say, an application or a layer of intelligence around all of these applications you're running. So the more you're able to invest in, let's say, a Power BI tool, or let's say a Google Analytics as a layer on top of these applications, just to understand where you're getting your traffic from. So let me give you a very small example. I know we're running out of time, but a very interesting example. The ability to drive traffic from online to offline and offline to online is a very critical part of the conversation, and especially for, let's say, retailers who probably have been selling offline until yesterday. So for them to be able to understand how can they, let's say, when a person walks into the store, and if let's say an inventory is not available, how do they not lose that customer and transfer their business online in their own systems, is a very critical enablement to have. And for that, you need a customer facing system. At the same time, you need data management system. So I think there are 4 layers, which is customer facing, employee facing, internal operations, and a bare board technology layer. I think is very critical.
Well, I hope that answered Gaurav's question. We have another question from Harsh Bank. And Saket, I'd be grateful if you can take it. Harsh says that given that compliance for MSMEs is so important, how can technology ensure that MSMEs become 100% compliant and thereby allow MSMEs to focus only on operational work?
Sure. To the best of my knowledge, MSMEs in India do not have a dedicated cybersecurity compliance that they have to have. There is an Indian IT Act, which actually stands true for, if you're in India, you have to be following the same. The income tax audit, actually these days, the stat audit that you do at the end of the year now has a provision that if you have your revenue more than a particular given threshold, last I checked, I think it was more than 100 crore rupees. In that case, there are certain security checks that the stat auditor has to do, along with the accounting audit that, obviously that happens at the end of the year. but that's for private limited companies and things around that. So I'm by no means an expert, from a law perspective, but I would say that because we work with a lot of banks, a lot of aviation companies, a lot of companies in the European region, regulations are like 50 times more than that. So I would say we are not in a very tough spot right now. The Data Protection Act is in the Parliament and is expected to be rolled out whenever it gets passed, which might be next few quarters. When that comes in, how you deal with the data that you consume from your customers will be an important aspect to keep in mind, because you have to give that authority to the customer, take the permission from the customer, and take the authority of using it, and then laying it out where will you use it, etc., etc. So MSME compliance, cybersecurity, not too much. If you're talking about some other kind of compliance, I am by no means an expert.
Yeah, so I wanted to throw the security compliance to you, and I think you've answered very well. Especially, I think the Data Protection Act will be very critical. Maybe Sanchit, from an advisory perspective, what about compliances related to finance, law, etc.? Well, what's your take on that? How can technology?
Yeah, it's a huge topic. Look, I think financial compliance has been a pain for most. The simplest lack of compliance happens in non-GST scenarios or TDS scenarios. And actually, compliance is quite an issue, if you ask me, from a import-export standpoint as well, especially when goods land at a certain point where this should not be. So I think purely from that perspective, the lot of times what happens is where the good is in the value chain, having that visibility in itself can be a huge point of information and insight to know. I'll give you an example. When a good leaves China, okay, you ought to pay up front a certain GST and certain VAT ahead of time, so that when it lands on port, you already have paid for taxation. Now that is unless you have the visibility from a data standpoint you can track the goods and the movement of the goods, you will always be non-compliant. One angle is that, Ivo. Second angle today is TDS filing and GST filing and PF filing. That again, there are lots of these brilliant applications. In fact, Zoho and the others have these SME-specific applications which allow you to automate these simplistic functions. What also happens is, in the event of an income tax notification coming in, a lot of times the notification gets missed as well. So if you have a simplistic SME financial accounting system, what it will do is to, one, create that dashboard for you from a visibility standpoint, depending on your business scenario. Where, let's say, where your goods are compliant or not, is taxation happening or not, are you missing any information from an income tax compliance? So I think having a visibility and a dashboard is critical. So I'll give you a very interesting example. If you go to Chandni Chowk in Delhi, you have these great people, great businesses in 30, 50, 100 crores, and all they have is no technology system, everything's in their head. But as it's going to the next generation, it's not going from one head to the other, and they're having to employ a ton of technology to automate these simplistic tasks, right? Also, what is happening is that as a lot of export starts to even increase, as Gadkari Saab said, our exports will increase and our MSMEs will contribute up to 50% in $5 trillion economy. It's very critical that our MSMEs start having these tools from a data perspective, so that when we want to export to large companies outside the country, we can build that visibility by having a data dashboard to them and ensuring that we are compliant. And with compliance, the thing is, and this is my last point, I won't hog more time, is that compliance is not once in a year compliance. It ought to be ongoing compliance, month on month, week on week compliance. So when you start exporting, or let's say doing a tremendous amount of local business, what becomes essential is a financial application that allows you to automate and create visibility.
Thank you, Sanchit. I think that was very comprehensive. We've really run out of time, but before we end, I just want to quickly ask all of you, what would be your roadmap to survival, suggestions for MSMEs, roadmap to survival for the next 6 to 12 months, and then perhaps growth after that, because that's what this COVID scenario looks like. So what would each one of you say? And quickly, maybe in about a minute, if you can, each of you all do that. Taru, starting with you.
Sure. One thing I would highlight definitely, and I've seen it across multiple micro, small, mid-sized companies, is at this time reorienting the business model. That's really the key. How can you really diversify? How do you have plan B in your pocket, right? Like what's not working right now, but what's beyond that? And I think, what was the other question? Sorry.
Yeah, it was more in terms of, how do you survive for the next 6 to 12 months? What is the survival strategy, and then grow after that? And especially if there's any technology suggestions.
I think if the MSMEs, or if whichever category they fall in, whether it's a small, it's a micro or a mid-size, I think just having that recovery model in place, and what that really means is if you don't have what Sanjit was talking about, digital presence, right? Like how do you really connect with your audience? How can your audience connect with where you are? Having that, your brand shining out there, right? Do people know that you are listed? You are a company. Having like all of those available to you. If you haven't built that, my advice is like start that today. That's what your consumers, your customers are looking for. So again, reorienting the business model will be my key advice.
Saket, what about you?
Sure. Ivor, I think we need to know that we are living in the most exciting times when it comes to connectivity, when it comes to opportunity for the small and medium businesses or people who are not entitled to a large business. And when that is the case, as it said, never waste a crisis. So I think this is the time, to what Taru said, if one reorients themselves closer to the future and to the future new way of working that would be, which will have technology in the center of anything and everything that you do. And frankly, dream something really big, even if you're small today. And today you have you're no longer restricted by physical space or physical boundaries anymore. So staying in a small town, you can actually really change the world. And now that's started to happen, not one, but many, many industries, many, many times. And I think you can't take a better situation than COVID to really orient yourself towards that. That's my only message.
Thank you so much, Saket. What's your take, Sanchit? Realistically, what are again some of the key points that you would highlight, and especially in the light of this pandemic? Because I think that Taru and Saket are very right in terms of perception, in terms of thinking all of that. But the reality also is that many MSMEs are just not able to survive. So what would be your take on this?
Right. Okay. So I'll be true to my job and give you a matrix. Okay. So we have something called the COVID-19 organizational response matrix, which we divide into 5 key parts. Now, this is basis a ton of advisory that we have done with the hospitality organizations, with BFSI and a few others as well. So the first stage essentially, Ivor, is to stabilize. Look, these are such unprecedented times, and compliances are changing, and the scenario is changing. That what's absolutely critical is to use technology that first and foremost protects your employees, your customers, and your partners. Period. That's the first point of call. Post that, once you've done that, once you've stabilized your existing business, second thing is to optimize. Look, in each of our systems, what we have in our businesses are facts. Layers of facts. So, what's happening naturally is you're seeing that a lot of people are losing their jobs. Processes are getting automated. There's a realignment in terms of the teams and how they're organized. So I think the second critical stage is to optimize what you already have from an investment and assets standpoint. The third one is survival. Now, why is survival important? Now, survival from a revenue standpoint. You may have existing products and services. You may want to build something for the future, but that's in the future. But idea is, how do you ensure your existing products and services find newer revenue streams? So, for example, we spoke about how manufacturing people can start aligning themselves to e-commerce ecosystems to allow for newer revenues. And that's the third stage. That's purely the survival stage. Now, the fourth stage after that is the revival stage. Now, this is super critical because you see, there's a lot of shift in consumer behavior around us. Let's take the example of movement of people cinemas to OTTs, or let's say people starting to drive again and not take shared cabs. Let's say if you are a auto manufacturer, or let's say an ancillary producer, this could be a great opportunity for you, because there will be an upscale in terms of sale of second-hand cars. There will be an uptick in terms of newer cars. So let's say if you're somebody who imports auto accessories, this is the time to actually revive and think of what is important from a safety standpoint. And that's how you revive your business. Last but not the least is the thrival part, wherein, see, this is a great reminder of the fragility in our business, in our ecosystems, and our supply chains. This is also a great reminder as to how a technology-first approach ought to be critical. So any business that even if they manage to survive this pandemic will definitely not thrive if they are not using technology from internal efficiencies and from revenue streams perspective.
Well, I think, we've plain run out of time. I think, but we've had a fantastic discussion, and I think at the heart of it really has been the fact that MSMEs need to keep technology right at the center if they really need to look forward, and that is going to be key to survival. Maybe and that is even at the SaaS level, etc., where they can invest in even technologies like AI, ML, etc., at a very low cost, and then really to grow. I think thank you all for the wonderful, insightful inputs that you all gave on all aspects of technology and business. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our audience, to thousands of people who are watching. I hope that we answered a lot of your questions. If not, you can always write to me at ivor.sones@bloombergquint.com. But once again, thank you so much, Taru, for joining us. Thank you, Saket, and thank you, Sanchit. It was an absolutely wonderful, informative panel, especially for me, and I hope so for the audience. So thank you for being here. Keep reading and keep watching BloombergQuint. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ivor.
Thank you, Ivor. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.